performance improvements will be built. A program such as the Back to Basics program will not provide immediate results, yet I'm just coming from a meeting with Provincial MEC's chairperson, and they're very encouraging reports from provinces of municipalities beginning to move out of the dysfunctional category into the category where they are functioning better. In the space of the last 10 months, since September 2014, when the President launched the Back to Basics program in Gauteng, we have moved quickly in the first phase of the program, and the following are some of the elements that we have put in place. The Back to Basic program is now well known amongst all the municipalities in South Africa. A dual approach was followed with multidisciplinary and interdepartmental teams doing work in most municipalities by focusing on developing municipal action plans and providing hands-on support in areas such as financial support and human resources. Most of the municipalities have adopted these plans formally through council resolutions. We have undertaken, both as minister and as officials, unannounced visits in selected municipalities across the country, resulting in the development of support and good governance packages. And together with political parties, we've seen interventions in Nelson Mandela Bay, Makana Local Municipality, Buffalo City Municipality, Mogalakwena, and most recently, as we are beginning to conclude, an agreement on an intervention in Oudtshoorn. The municipal monthly reporting system is taking shape, and an average of 181 municipalities are reporting against the Back to Basics indicators. Provincial COCTA coordination of support to municipalities has improved, and we've got further reports on this today. The Back to Basics program is also now a standing item on the agenda of the President's Coordinating Council. This chairperson is a forum where the President meets the premiers, certain ministers, and representatives of SALGA. From the work done to date, the key problems have been identified. It is now time to focus on those action plans that we are now putting in place. And in the next phase of Back to Basics, which we are planning now, a more precise and practical and hands-on approach will be taken with respect to the kind of changes that municipalities are expected to make in order to improve their performance. Through this approach, it will be possible to register measurable quantitative improvements in the citizens' better experience of local government. Some 236 municipalities reported at least once during the last 6 months, which is also encouraging in addition to the numbers I gave earlier on. And in respect of the 5 pillars of the Back to Basics program, putting people first, we notice that the majority of ward committees are in place, but there's still room for improvement in respect of the interface between councillors and officials at a municipal level and the public that they are there to serve. And this will be an important area of focus as we go forward so that we can improve communication between municipalities and the communities that they serve. In respect of service delivery, the expenditure on the municipal infrastructure grant has stabilized over the years, and on average, most provinces are spending more than 80%, and some close to 100%, as we have learned today. Reporting municipalities have been responding to service delivery failures, as indicated in respect of electricity outages and sewage spillages. And again, many of them are performing the functions they need to perform in less than 3 hours after the complaint is received. But let's be very honest, there is still room for improvement in this area as well in terms of attending to complaints sooner rather than later. With reference to free basic services, some 4.9 million households in the reporting municipalities receive free basic water each month, and about 1.7 million households receive free basic electricity. Here again, it's important for municipalities to clean up their indigent registers, make sure that the right people are on those registers, and those who are not supposed to benefit should not be benefiting. In respect of good governance, here again, there's vast improvement, but we are now able to identify very clearly where there are dysfunctionalities in good governance, and together with the provinces, we'll be taking further steps to either support or intervene in municipalities. On financial management, The audit outcomes, as we all know, as reported by the Auditor General, have been improving. And the key is to make sure that the 50-odd municipalities that have had disclaimers for more than 3 years in a row are the ones that stop getting disclaimers. And we've just reached agreement with the MECs from the provinces that they will attend to these matters. There's equally good progress in terms of ensuring that municipalities hire the right competencies and the right people with the right competencies. And here again, more than 80% of the key positions of municipal manager, chief financial officer, and Section 56 positions have been filled by most of the municipalities. And in those instances where there are less than qualified people, MECs are being asked to act against those individuals and make sure that they either leave that job or do a job more compatible with the level of qualifications that they have. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. It is now, thank you, Honorable Members, for that round of applause. It is now time for a supplementary question, but the first person who will get the first bite is the person who asked the question, which is the Honorable Mohapi from Free State. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me acknowledge with gratitude the response from the Minister. Minister, there have been many reports on the progress made in the local government sphere, confirming significant improvements in area of basic service delivery by the 20-year review by the Presidency, the Auditor General, etc. However, there's been a concerted negative reporting by the media, misinforming the general public on the true state of affairs about our government. The recent development is yesterday's admission by the editor of Citizen, Stephen Motale, where he said, Minister, I quote, I've been party to the wrongful agenda against Zuma and can only apologize for that. I've been party to the unfairness along with many of my colleagues. Minister, is this an acknowledgement not indicative of the fact that there is subjective, explicit, and unholy agenda by some media houses which is not in conformity with the objective, ethical journalism practices to deliberately paint a negative and unfair image, particularly on the improvements and impact by the Back to Basic programs? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, the Honorable Mohapi is correct. Even in our early analysis of the Back to Basics program and the criteria that we had identified, we had said that some 80 municipalities in South Africa are doing very well. We also said that over 70 municipalities are doing well, but they need to attend to one or two things. So that's 2/3 of the municipalities that are, on average, performing much better than perhaps the public perception allows. Secondly, municipal government is the closest to communities. So even if there's a problem with something that a national department is responsible for, it's a municipal councillor and the municipal official and the municipality that will be held responsible. So that's an extra burden that municipalities actually carry. And thirdly, I would agree with Honorable Mohapi that we need to do more work to inform and educate our media colleagues about what the real facts are, that not all of local government is a failure. Otherwise, we'll be a collapsed state and a collapsed country, and we're not. We're still a well-run and well-governed state in South Africa compared to the countries internationally. And we must never forget that. Often when foreign visitors come across to South Africa, one of the observations they make about all of us, regardless of the political party we come from, is that we're too negative about ourselves, right? And we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we've achieved in 15 years, only 15 years. Democratic local government in South Africa will turn 15 years of age on the 5th of December this year. And I think what we've achieved in reducing over 800 apartheid-based so-called municipal structures to what we currently have as 278 municipalities is a remarkable job. At the same time, we are the most honest about ourselves. We are the ones who say to the world, these are the problems we have, these are the challenges that we see, and these are the challenges that we have answers for at the end of the day. So we're not hiding our weaknesses. I think the important thing is that we mustn't mix party politics with the importance of historically performing the task that we have, which is to build an effective state in all three spheres of government. And so there's areas where we must work together, and there are areas where we must compete with each other. And getting that balance right is the difficult task.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. As long as the members remember that they don't have to converse aloud, there's no problem. I also want to caution the members that they must remember that we only qualify for 4 supplementary questions. So now we remain with 3. I'll ask the Honorable Mutla Shuping to come up with a supplementary question.
No, thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks also to the Minister for giving such a comprehensive answer. We acknowledge that in the space of 10 months, you have made a remarkable achievement, and that there is a movement from municipalities in terms of improvement. I am, however, mindful of the fact that is the minister satisfied in terms of the improvement, in terms of service delivery, in terms of your sound financial management system, the human resource management? And will the minister also, in terms of the response given here, I have read in the response of the minister that the provinces of Limpopo and Mpumalanga apparently has a problem with the indigent register. What are the intervention mechanisms that the department would come with to assist these municipalities to ensure that they comply? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mutla Shuping. The Honorable Minister.
Let me thank the honourable member for his question and his acknowledgement that we have made remarkable progress. So it's good to have a meeting point on that. Are we satisfied with the progress in respect of services, financial management, and HR? Let's start with financial management. If audit results are an indication of better financial management, then the Auditor General certainly reports that year on year we've seen an improvement over the last 5 or 6 years. Is it adequate? Not yet. What I would still like to see is that all of us in government, SALGA, and in other entities ensure that no municipality receives a disclaimer, right? Because you receive disclaimers because you don't have basic documents in place. Now, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for any mayor to collect a salary or any municipal manager to collect a salary if they can't keep basic documents in place. But that's only 50 of our municipalities out of 278. But they do require focus, and you as honorable members can help us by calling them to the NCOP to account and say, why aren't you getting this right? Why are you doing this over 3 years? Why are you doing this over 5 years? And your assistance and surveillance in that regard will be very helpful. On HR, I think we've taken some important steps. We've got benchmarks now for competencies. There are tests that are taking place. We now have given people an opportunity to improve their competency levels as well in order to meet the requirements. Where we become aware that the wrong person is in the wrong job, we are asking MECs to actually act on that as well. We're not 100% there, but we're well on our way to getting significant improvements in that area. On services, I think we've come a long way as a country in 21 years. In terms of overcoming backlogs. But let's be mindful that a couple of 100-year legacy of neglect in all of our areas is not going to be overcome in 20 years. So there's still hard work to do in terms of overcoming backlogs. There's hard work to do in terms of planning for the next 10 years in every district, in every municipality, for how do we get better water supply, how do we get better refuse removal, how do we actually ensure electrification, and the spread, for example, of solar water heaters and renewable energy in our different areas. And in that area, there is certainly room for improvement. Now, it's also an area where contractors from the private sector come in as well, in respect of some of these services. And what we require is a better understanding amongst all of us that you can come in, you can get a tender, you can supply the services, but don't collect money from government if you're not doing the right quality of work. And so we must demand the right quality of services to our citizens in those regards as well. On the indigent register, Chairperson, what we are expecting provinces to indeed help municipalities to check the register. And the phenomenon that we have noticed in some places, and it's not specifically in those two provinces that you've mentioned, is that officials become too friendly with the wrong people, and people who are earning good salaries find their names onto the indigent register. So they're getting benefits like free basic services when in fact they should be paying. So the more general proposition, Chairperson, is that all of us should be very concerned about those parts of our country and communities where there isn't an adequate payment culture. So we've got to work harder at making sure that our people understand that services cost money, that if they can afford to pay, they must actually pay, so that others who cannot afford to pay can benefit from that money. And because it's those of us that are earning money that contribute either in a local sphere or nationally through our taxes and surcharges, so that others who cannot afford can actually benefit. So we need perhaps, again, the help of the NCOP to ensure that in this particular area of improving our payment culture, we give a lot of focus as well.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, in Polokwane, the municipal manager and mayor was asked to resign after corruption allegations and maladministration took place, which you are well aware of. The Honourable Minister asked MEC Botha to investigate this matter, but as usual, no one ever heard about the outcome of this investigation. Instead of taking legal action against a municipal manager, the MEC redeployed him to the Springbok municipality, the Namakwa municipality. Now, Honourable Minister, what is the department's position regarding redeploying of corrupt officials after local government level, since it's totally contradictory to the tenets of government's Back to Basic program?
The Honourable Minister.
A very good question. I'm not aware of all the facts, so let me admit that up front. I will certainly check with the MEC about, I didn't quite catch the name of the municipality, Chairperson. Is the Honourable Member? Polokwane, okay. But I think the principle is that we have enough laws and processes in this country to make sure that those who are guilty of statutory offences are properly charged and that they are properly dealt with, either within internal tribunals or through the justice process. And as far as I'm concerned, if there's evidence of that kind of wrongdoing, any individual concerned must go through that process. And if the individual is cleared, then they can go back to work. And if they're not cleared, then they have to face the consequences of the kind of choices that they've actually made in life. But I will look into the specific matter and try and get a better understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I see the Honourable members are still indicating that they have questions, but I started from my left, I go to my right. And now is the fourth member, Honourable Mitilin.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question to Honourable Minister is that the Minister of Finance has indicated that spending on capital budget remained dismal. Only 31.6% was actually spent. And therefore, is there any particular forecast to eradicate infrastructure backlog through Back to Basics? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Mitilin. Honourable Minister.
Honourable Member, yes, that's very much part of our focus. So what we are doing at the moment is to reorganize our Municipal Infrastructure Service Agency, MISA. We've got a new CEO who is Dr. Phillips, and at the moment, for example, we have about 53 professionals in about 60 or 70 different municipalities assisting them in respect of technical work. But where we want to get to in the next few months is that we want every district to have an infrastructure plan. Every municipality within a district to also have a longer-term plan. What happens in many instances is that people in municipalities wait to see how much of money they have, then they decide on a project. By the time they decide and award a tender, the time for that financial year is actually over. So what you want, and this is the best practice, is that you want a pipeline of projects. And when the money is available, either from the fiscus or, for example, a loan from the DBSA, then you are able to actually prosecute those projects effectively. But secondly, we also want to ensure that we improve delivery capability and project implementation and contract management within municipalities as well. Thirdly, we are working currently with the Treasury to design, let's call it transversal municipal infrastructure procurement rules. In other words, not every municipality needs to go out to buy the same thing separately. There must be, as you know, when government negotiated differently for antiretroviral drugs, we saved 2 to 3 billion rands a few years ago. At the moment, the Chief Procurement Officer and his office are looking at various areas of government expenditure where we can purchase key items that are regularly used on a transversal basis. In other words, you say, for example, I'm going to use 1,000 of these things in a year. Well, let's negotiate the good price for the 1,000 rather than each one of us negotiating for 2 each and paying that price. So those are some of the measures that we have in place. And I would think that in the next 3 months or so, we'll begin to see better results in terms of managing infrastructure. But what is crucial, Chairperson, is also operations and maintenance. Some of our municipalities have the right capability, the right technical staff to make sure that they replace water pipes after 20 years or repair things that actually go wrong. Others amongst our municipalities don't give proper attention to this area. And as a result, what we find is that infrastructure deteriorates very quickly and the replacement rate is much higher than it actually should be. The last point is that in the budgeting process of municipalities, some municipalities do set aside between 5 and 8% in terms of maintenance costs. Others don't set aside any money at all. So what we are looking at here is to ensure that municipalities budget for maintenance, because that's crucial to ensure the longevity of some of our structures.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now we proceed to another question which was asked by the Honorable Member M. Kaula. Honorable Member Kaula, you're on your feet. Okay.
I'm
Are you
just calling the
raising
House to order, Chairperson. We have got a stranger in the House.
That is not a point of order, Honorable Member. We don't have a stranger, but you have all Honorable Members in this House. Honorable Minister, order, Honorable Members. Honorable Minister, the question that you're going to respond to now was asked by the very Honorable Member who is rising on a point of order. That is not a point of order. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Okay, this microphone is now on. Thank you, Chairperson. The issue raised by Honorable Kaula is a very important one. And let me say that this past winter initiation season was both good and bad. It was good from the point of view that a lesser number of young people died than they did last year. It's bad that we still had 34 deaths compared to 44 last year. It's 34 young people who lost their lives because of reckless conduct on the part of people operating illegal schools, engaging in the wrong kind of conduct. So in response to his first point, 29 boys lost their lives in the Eastern Cape, 20, in the OR Tambo district, 3 in Chris Hani, 3 in Alfred Nzo, 2 in Jokabi, 1 in Amatole. There were no deaths reported in Gauteng and in the Western Cape. There were 3 reported in Limpopo, 2 in Sekhukhune, 1 in Waterberg. There was 1 in Mpumalanga and 1 in the Northwest. So the total number of deaths was 34 in this winter season compared to 44 last year. This is an improvement, which is attributable to some very good work done both by the Department of Traditional Affairs at a national level and the provincial level, and traditional leaders, particularly the Deputy Chair of the National House of Traditional Leaders. But as I'm sure all of us will agree, 34 young people dying is still not satisfactory in modern-day South Africa. Several interventions to curb the deaths of initiates have been implemented. However, these are still areas that need to be improved. The following steps were taken by the department in order to try to tackle this problem. In the first instance, Cabinet has approved the initiation policy before the initiation season, and we sent guidelines to all MECs on what should and should not be done during the initiation season. The Deputy Minister of Traditional Affairs, Mr. Bapela, and his team attended relevant workshops as well as the launch of the winter initiation season. They inspected initiation schools to check compliance with requirements of establishing a registered initiation school, and clear messages were communicated in particularly most parts of the Eastern Cape. The National House of Traditional Leaders, as I pointed out, supported by the department and through the Deputy Chairperson of the National House, played a very important part in mobilizing various constituencies. And again, the target was unregistered schools and illegal operators of the initiation process and practice. The teams also consisted of provincial representatives, Department of Health, the Commission on Religious Language and Cultural Rights, the South African Police Service, and the Department of Social Development, and we want to thank all of them for their cooperation. The letters that were written by myself to each of the MECs was followed up by visits to each of the provinces that were concerned. Soon after the closure of the winter initiation season, the National House convened a meeting with stakeholders to assess the effectiveness of the interventions. And one of the observations, Chairperson, that we've made upon reflection is that there's a mushrooming of unregistered initiation schools and organized crime, which the South African police and other stakeholders have to deal with much more harshly than they've been able to do to date. It should be noted that the draft initiation policy will be considered by a cabinet committee next week with the few changes that we've made as a result of feedback that we've obtained. And this policy will begin to be implemented in the provinces in preparation for the summer season. We are still committed to our objective, and I hope all of you will join us in that there must be zero deaths and fatalities and injuries during the initiation process. And those that are engaging in malpractices that either result in injury or loss of life need to be dealt with very harshly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The first question goes to the person who asked the question, which is the Honorable Member Kaula from the IFP. Over to you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, House Chair, and thanks, Honorable Minister, for the response. I want to firstly agree with the Honorable Minister that even if it had been one death, it would have been one too many. So we don't need to lose not even a life. But one appreciates that kind of scaling down, although it has not come to what we can call perfect. Honorable Chairperson, I want to argue that these deaths are avoidable deaths, and it rests with government to ensure that there is no death. For as long as there is one death, there is so many deaths, it means that measures put by government are not strong enough. So I want to find out from the Minister, in terms of ensuring that there is not a single death, what strong measures is the government putting? And secondly, the punitive measures in respect of the culprits, because the Minister seems to be saying there are culprits. What punitive measures, what action is being taken to ensure that those culprits are also brought to book and they have to pay for their wrong actions? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, one would agree with Honorable Kaula that one death is one death too many, and I've made that point repeatedly in my initial remarks. So there's no difference of view on that question. On the question, even on the point that these are avoidable deaths, we agree. Where I disagree is where you say, everything rests with government. That's wrong. That's wrong. I think we as a society and we as individual communities and community leaders in those individual communities must take responsibility for what happens in those communities. Government can't be everywhere. And particularly where we are talking about young people from our own communities, from our own families. Surely we should be the first people to make sure that they go to the right initiation school. We should be the first people to report to the police that there are malpractices taking place in our community. We should be the first people to report those who are assaulting young people in this process and during the season. And these things are actually happening. So if you look at the malpractices, Chairperson, you have unregistered initiation schools, you have the commercialization of this practice. So illegality is combined with money-making. And young people are the victims, either in terms of mutilation of the young people or their deaths in the final instance as well. There's parents who do not take their children through pre-screening, and other children go to initiation schools without the consent of their parents. Some parents do not get involved throughout the initiation process. There's assaults of initiates. There's late application for holding of initiation schools. There's unwillingness of principals to support monitoring teams, and I can carry on. There's a long list here. So what I would certainly look forward to is cooperation from all of us to make sure that we arrive at the target of 0 deaths. And assigning blame is not going to really help. As I said earlier on, let's learn to work together on those matters which affect all of us collectively. On the question of punitive measures, we've written to the Minister of Justice and to the Minister of Police. We've identified certain culprits that we have been informed about. But more generally, as far as we are concerned, all of those that are responsible for what I've described must face the full might of the law and face the consequences. But there again, I think we require the participation and assistance of members from the community together with the law enforcement agencies. So I think we agree on most things. I hope the Honorable Kaula also agrees with me that we share the responsibility jointly for making sure that we arrive at the 0 deaths target.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. He is agreeing and we understand working together. The next Honorable Member will be Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. I was getting worried for a moment there that you weren't seeing me frantically waving my question paper, but I'm indebted to you for the opportunity. Honourable Minister, statistics suggest that the number of fatalities associated with the winter initiation season, as you've mentioned, decreased by 10 from 44 in the same period last year to 34 this year. And we also commend those on ground level who have helped to achieve this. However, the number of fatalities in the Eastern Cape remains worryingly high, as opposed to in provinces such as the Western Cape, the Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Northern Cape. Has your department looked at best practices in certain provinces and the possibility of applying such in a province such as the Eastern Cape? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Let me thank the Honourable Member for his commendation of the efforts that all of us have put in up to now. The Western Cape doesn't have any of these practices, so that's why you don't see any numbers coming from the Western Cape. But I think you make a very important point about the numbers that we're getting from the Eastern Cape. And the National House of Traditional Leaders and the Department of Traditional Affairs is looking into, the best practice question. The initiation policy is actually drafted on the basis of feedback from all of the experiences that we have. And I hope, excuse me, honourable members will make themselves familiar with this. But what we ultimately require is more attention on the ground itself. I think all of us know that geographically there are differences in which, or in the way in which cultural practices actually take place and the processes that are actually followed. And whilst respecting that on the one hand, we need to create some common guidelines, if you like, which is what the initiation policy is trying to do. And what we want to do now is to turn those guidelines into law and make sure that the kind of malpractices that we are talking about are now made part of a statutory regime. But more importantly, it's the enforcement side on the one hand, but the education and persuasion side on the other hand, that is going to help us to make sure that that number of 34 declines to zero.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Once again, our condolences to the loss of life, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, let me take this opportunity to welcome and appreciate the collaboration that your department has pursued between your good self, traditional leaders, and South African police services in successfully effecting the arrest of those who contributed to the loss of life, abuse, and assault of initiates. Honorable Minister, my question is, what is it that you are going to do to ensure that you sustain this collaboration and not only be effective as and when we embark on initiation era? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Mohapi. I think what this past season has demonstrated, indeed the past year, is that we are taking a much more proactive approach as opposed to a reactive approach. And one hopes that as we get the policy framework in place, the guidelines in place, and the past year has also been extremely important in terms of developing a collaborative approach. Health department, education departments, traditional leaders, and other role players, and the South African police, as I mentioned earlier on. But what we still need is a greater public awareness of what is right and what is wrong, a greater sense of leadership from communities themselves, which says that we are not going to allow X, Y, and Z to happen to our young people. And just as much as we raise our voices in respect of other issues, I think we should raise our voices about 34 deaths as well, so that we actually create a climate where there's no such problem. So what will create sustainability for the collaboration is to institutionalize the structures, which is beginning to happen, institutionalize the kind of practices that we are engaging in as government and as stakeholders, and then thirdly is to win the battle on the ground. And there, all of you perhaps need just like you have a local government week, looks like you might need a NCOP initiation week, where we go out to the communities with a single message and say, this is the do's and these are the don'ts. And we cannot afford, all of us must unite around the demand that we do not want any deaths in the next initiation season. Now, we have the Deputy Minister from the Presidency here, who's also responsible for youth affairs. So we shall mandate him to give us some leadership in this regard as well. So it's very fortunate that we have his presence here, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. You've been so progressive by appointing him to make sure that he leads this. Honorable Minister from the Presidency, you've been appointed officially in this House today. Thank you. The last member to come up with a supplementary question is the Honorable Ntebe. Honorable Ntebe? That's the fourth one.
No, Chair, the Minister was very explicit about the progress that we've made so far, and that there's a need for us to eliminate even one death is one too many. But in terms of the institutional processes that we have, Minister, there is a health screening process that should be undertaken before the initiation process takes place. Is there resistance to adhere to such a process, or what is it that is impeding on the, because some are caused by health-related issues that could have been appreciated and be treated as such. Thank you, Minister.
To the Honorable Minister.
That's a very important point that the Honorable Member makes. And again, that was institutionalized over the last year or two. And it's becoming more of a practice than less of a practice. But as you heard me earlier, Honorable Member, in this list of problems that I have before me, or challenges that we actually have, one of them is that the parents do not take their children through pre-screening, and other children go to initiation schools without the consent of their parents. So again, creating that public consciousness and getting parents to understand what their role and responsibility is. But also getting young people. Young people today are able to understand if we explain to them in the correct kind of way what they need to do to look after themselves. Because you're now talking about damaging somebody who's not going to recover from that for the rest of his life if we don't do that right. And similar things apply to girls in a different kind of context as well. So we have a huge responsibility to protect them from the malpractices that we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We now continue, Honorable Members. The next question was asked by the Honorable Member Hoshi Tobejani, who is not present now, but from the Office of the Chief Whip, I get the name of Honorable Mutara, who will be responsible for the supplementary question. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
The question raised by Hoshi Tobejani is in respect of traditional councils. Now, according to our records, 829 traditional councils have been established. The department is working together with provincial departments, and at the moment they have reconstituted 704 traditional councils. The 125 traditional councils that have not yet been reconstituted are largely in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga, and these two provinces have started the reconstitution process in terms of Section 3.2a of the Traditional Leadership and Governance Framework Act of 2003, which was gazetted with amended guidelines determining the number of members of traditional councils. In respect of the second part of the question, the act that I've mentioned is being implemented through requesting compliance reports from the provincial departments responsible for traditional affairs. And yes, the legislation is being fully implemented. I think the challenge here, Chairperson, is to again make sure on the one hand that we make incremental progress in implementing and constituting these traditional councils, but secondly, developing the capability both in provinces and national government to monitor their functionality and ensure that they're doing the kind of work that they're meant to do in respect of the legislation. So we're well on our way in moving in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mutara.
Thank you, Minister, for your response. My follow-up would be, how has the unequal distribution of resources hampered the work that the House of Traditional Leaders are responsible in carrying out?
To the Honorable Minister.
But again, without the numbers in front of me, I can't really comment on that. But most provincial administrations, Chairperson, have assigned sufficient amount of funds to get these traditional councils to work. And at the moment, funding might not be the key issue, although in respect of, for example, refurbishing buildings occupied by traditional councils, we don't have all the funds at the moment to, for example, in the next year, improve all of them. But there is a systematic process that is being followed together with provincial departments to improve the buildings in which they actually operate. At the same time, I think we need to be very mindful, and if we don't believe me, then you can ask Honorable De Beer, that we have very tight fiscal conditions that we are working under. And so some of these things might take a little bit longer than they might originally have been thought to take in order to cope with some of the challenges that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Michelle Lakis.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable Minister, some of the expenses, and I want to use the example of the Zulu King, were, and I quote a newspaper article, 10.3 million rand allocated for the King's Palace, whilst the majority, not the majority, but a vast number of South Africans don't even have homes. 2.2 million rand for each of his wives, which comes down to 31,000 Rand each month per wife, 2.5 million Rand for traveling expenses, which comes down to 36,000 Rand per month per wife, and then just below 1 million Rand of education, which most of that goes to the children of the king, whilst the majority of our youth don't have public transport or education. A lot of this money is taxpayers' money. My question is, whilst the majority of our youth currently don't have these resources and should be assisted through taxpayers' money, where do you draw the line between assisting the traditional leaders and giving services to the people? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, it's up to you, Papa, whether you take it, but this is totally a new question. Over to you. And also,
That's all right, that's all right. We are a democracy, that's fine. We've got to demonstrate that. I think what we need to remind ourselves of, Chairperson, is Section 211 and 212 of the Constitution. Now, Sections 211 and 212 of the Constitution gives recognition to traditional leadership in South Africa. And 212 in particular makes provisions for the establishment of houses of traditional leaders. So that's the first point. So in a sense, what we have is a constitutional obligation to recognize and to, within our means, support the institution of traditional leadership. Secondly, it's logical that in supporting the institution of traditional leadership, you're going to use money from the fiscus. So this money is transparently allocated through a fiscal process that all of you are very familiar with as honorable members. And so there's no expenditure here that we are unable to actually account for. Otherwise, the honorable member wouldn't be able to give us the numbers that he's actually given us. The third point is an important point that he makes. How do we make trade-offs in our society? How do we decide something is more important than something else? And I think at the end of the day, government is about maintaining a reasonable and rational balance in meeting all of the challenges that we have. I think all of us understand as honorable members that we don't have all the money to do everything now. We all understand that. And we don't have all the money to do everything even in the next 5 years. That actually needs to be done. So the budgeting process, which Parliament itself is involved in, as is the NCOP, is about deciding, A, what is the ruling party's priorities, B, how are resources allocated to those priorities, and C, whether that is done in terms of the law. And as you know, we are amongst the most transparent countries in terms of the budgeting processes compared to 90-odd countries across the world. The numbers in relation to His Majesty are numbers that I haven't been familiar with directly, but one of the objectives that I think we want to get to is to make sure that there are national norms and standards for all of the matters that we actually deal with. And over time, I believe that we could arrive at that, but it's not going to happen tomorrow morning. The other and last point that we need to bear in mind is that many of these functions are concurrent functions, but in particular functions that are performed by provinces. And again, it's the provincial authorities that determine how they want to allocate their resources as well. But we should not create the impression, Chairperson, that sections 211 and 212 of the Constitution, which is our collective Constitution, don't exist. They do exist. And by virtue of adopting the Constitution, we are adopting those two clauses and giving recognition to the institution of traditional leadership.
thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thanks very much, Honorable Chair. Minister, I just want to check. Correctly said and explicitly outlined by your good self that Section 211 and Section 212 of the Constitution gives both recognition and outline the role of traditional leaders, which means it's a matter that is not being dealt as a privilege, but it is the right of the provincial House of Traditional Leadership to be acknowledged and be recognized. Minister, in Western Cape, as an example, specifically in the Western Cape, as it's alleged that the Western Cape province doesn't want to recognize the Provincial House of Traditional Leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Again, these are not questions about traditional councils, but that's fine. I want to confirm what the Honorable Member has said about Section 211 and 212, and I'd encourage Honorable Members to familiarize themselves with those sections. But the point about the Western Cape, I think it will begin to change as we process the Traditional Affairs Bill that goes to Cabinet next week, which will give recognition to the Khoi and San community.
The last Honorable Member who raised the question, his hand earlier, and it was not.
To recommend that the NCOP could invite ethical standards in that society. So if as a society we are quite clear about what is right and wrong, if as a society we are quite clear about how public funds should be utilized and not utilized, and if as a society we discourage greed and improper acquisition of wealth, then we have a greater chance of actually fighting this battle against corruption. So what's important is that there needs to be a higher level of social awareness, not just a finger-pointing exercise, where we all talk about the fact that we want to rid ourselves of this problem. Now, years ago, ducking taxes was a big sport in South Africa, right? It took us 10 years to wipe out most, but not all of it. And it's possible to use the same kind of methodology, if you like, to begin to make a dent in this particular area in respect of anti-corruption initiatives by government as well. But let us not live with the impression that if we sort out politician X and Y or official Z and W, we are going to eliminate the problem. There's another person who's playing or doing the tango, so to speak, and we need both sides to agree to this kind of approach.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Labuschagne.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much. We all agree that corruption impacts on the public service. I would like to know, we also know that the framework is meant to reduce the levels of corruption in the public service, especially relating to the disclosure of financial interests that you already mentioned, of state employees, acceptance of gifts and accepting...
Speak into the mic, please.
Sorry. The framework is meant to reduce the levels of corruption in the public service, especially relating to the disclosure of financial interests, as you already mentioned, of state employees, acceptance of gifts and accepting remunerative work outside of the public service, as well as doing business with the government. That's not actually part of the framework, but I ask why, or I include that because actually that's one of that which should be there. Then I would like to know, Minister, do you perhaps have, what is the percentage? You said it's decreasing. What is the percentage of public servants declaring their financial interests? And what is the Minister doing to ensure that every public servant declare their interest? And what is the consequences on those who are not doing that?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, I don't have a number, but I do know from my own departmental experience that firstly, the declaration of interest is reasonably well managed within departments. In other words, if X number of people don't do what they're supposed to do, firstly, we will know who they are. Secondly, they'll be pursued by the Minister's office or the Director General. And thirdly, we'll ensure that we have 100% compliance. The next is, I also know that the Public Service Commission will follow up if there are deficiencies in the declarations, either in terms of content or in terms of the number of people that have actually not complied as well. So the real question is whether the capacity exists to check every person's declaration. And as you know, in most of these environments, it's difficult to check on a universal basis. The next question that you then come up with is whether you have a sufficiently well-developed risk management system. So after a few years of experience, you will know where your risks are. And on that basis, you'll do tests. And we certainly have experience of the department and in particular the Commission following up on these areas.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We proceed, Honorable Members, to the question that deals with National Program of Action. And the Honorable Member Makua will be responsible for a supplementary question on behalf of the Honorable Nyambi, who is not in the House. Honorable Minister.
This is with reference, Chairperson, to South Africa's African Peer Review Mechanism and what progress has been made in addressing the key issues raised, as you said, in the National Program of Action. The response is that South Africa presented its third APRM progress report on the implementation of the National Program of Action to the African Peer Review Forum of Heads of State and Government in January 2014. The report covered the four thematic areas of the APRM, namely democracy and political governance, economic governance, corporate governance, and socio-economic development. The third report indicated that South Africa has made tremendous strides and progress in many areas of governance, including economic development, social security, health, and infrastructure development in the more than 10 years since the country acceded to the APRM. In the areas of democracy and political governance, the third report indicated that South Africa continues to consolidate democracy, political participation, pluralism, and broadened citizen participation in policy formulation and monitoring. During this period of reporting, popular participation was reflected in the democratic processes such as the May 2011 local government elections that were declared free and fair. Furthermore, the report indicates that there is continuity in the use and consolidation of public participation fora, such as Izimbizo, as well as the participatory processes connected to the Integrated Development Plans, the IDPs, and the Local Economic Development Plans, the LEDs, at a municipal level, as well as participatory provincial growth and development strategies. It's important to note that the reinforcement of these platforms is in line with the letter and spirit of the APRM, since the mechanism identified them as among South Africa's best practice that can benefit other countries in the continent. Notwithstanding these and other platforms, such as parliamentary committees that allow citizens avenues to participate in and be heard on decisions that affect their lives, the report raises concerns about the violent nature of service delivery protests during this period. The report applauds the Social Cohesion Summit that was convened by the Department of Arts and Culture and held in Kliptown in June 2012 as a positive platform to consolidate attempts at deepening social cohesion and national unity. The third report acknowledges that with regard to economic governance and management, the country still faces an acute lack of capacity, especially financial expertise to manage social programs, public spending, and facilitation of service delivery at all levels of government. However, the report also notes the remarkable, although slow, progress made with regard to an increase of clean audits for 2011-12 financial year. In fact, we've seen more since then. The report further highlights the various initiatives by the National Treasury, the Auditor General, as well as the National School of Government in building sound public financial management capacity in the public sector. On corporate governance, this section acknowledges and notes that the implementation of the new Companies Act of 2008, which began on the 1st of May 2011, in relation to the Companies Act and the Consumer Protection Act, the lead panelist for South Africa, Professor Sawyer, said on corporate governance, South Africa continues to set standards and best practices which are in place to stimulate private sector growth. During the 2007 APRM country review exercise, the mission identified the BEE codes as best practice with potential for transforming various sectors of the South African economy. The third report also notes that in 2011, Parliament signed off the draft amendments to the broad-based BEE Act, Codes of Good Practice, and that in 2012 these amendments became part of the BBBEE Act. Lastly, the third APRM report notes remarkable progress South Africa has made during the reporting period in relation to its fight against pandemics such as HIV, AIDS, and TB. The scourge of HIV/AIDS pandemic was identified by the 2007 report as cutting across all areas of governance and requiring urgent attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Makua, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Minister. I think what is very contemporary for us is the economic growth. And the APRM indicates, through the report of Professor Sawyer, the importance of stimulating private sector growth, and then refers to the BBBEE. Can we get an indication as to what is the dynamics within the BBBEE, particularly against the backdrop of the present scenario where we are looking at improving the codes on the BBBEE, because we are, as a government, of the opinion that what has happened was that the people who benefited wasn't broad-based. And if we look at that private sector growth, we hear two different voices, one saying that no, it will again be the same minority group benefiting, but we hear another group saying that it would help us to deal with our skewed economic growth that we have inherited from the apartheid past. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
I think what we can say to the Honourable Member is that, as the President pointed out in his press conference on the SONA update a few days ago, that firstly we need to recognize that the global environment that we find ourselves in as South Africa is a very challenging one. And in fact, in the last week, with the devaluation of the yuan by the Chinese government and central bank, new volatilities have actually entered the global space as well. But notwithstanding that, the President pointed out that we as government have what is described as the 9-point action plan on promoting economic growth, that each of those areas is receiving attention, that there are significant efforts at attracting investment both from outside the country and from within the country. You will also know that last week the President and the Deputy President met with both their ministers on the one hand and representatives of the business sector. And after a year's work in about 4 different subcommittees, we see significant progress in creating a better climate and understanding between the private sector and government. And this should lead to a greater deal of confidence in South Africa and in the economy from our own business people to invest in key areas of the economy. But equally, there was an understanding that there are still many structural features of our economy that need to change. We need more investment and not only rely on consumption. We need more fixed investment from the private sector in particular, because that's the sector that actually drives the economy ultimately. Secondly, there are still areas of our economy that the IMF and the OECD will regard as oligopolistic. In other words, we don't have enough what they will call competition in the product market. So in relation to certain areas of the economy, there's too few firms. Thirdly, the government has established, and the President in particular, the new Department of Small Business. And generally the observation about our economy is that we don't have as big an informal sector or a small business sector as many developing economies across the world. And a lot of focus needs to be put into this particular area. And so clearly, The triple BEE codes are an important factor in ensuring that those who've been marginalized, that's the black population in South Africa, economically speaking, have better access to business opportunities, to wealth development, and to ownership within the economy. But we must also acknowledge that government needs to do more to support, in particular, small businesses and the development of young entrepreneurs, whether they work as social entrepreneurs or non-governmental organizations or in cooperatives or in businesses. In each of these areas, we need more citizens engaged and taking initiatives that would ensure that they become beneficiaries through their own actions of economic developments in our country. So I think as a government, excuse me, are optimistic that our plans are going to work, that we will have to navigate these difficult waters in the next period ahead of us. But we are not as bad off as some of the other big developing countries that had 5 and 6% growth at one stage and are in recession at the moment. So as the Minister of Finance did say recently, we are on a low growth trajectory, but it's still positive, so that's a good sign. But at the same time, we know that that's not good enough and that we need to get to the 5% or 4% that will significantly increase job creation in South Africa, but also ensure that the majority of our population, as you correctly point out, are beneficiaries of this growth and not just a handful. But we also know in conclusion, Chairperson, that across the world there's this debate about inequality. And whether it's a developed country or a developing country, inequality between the top 1% or 10% and the rest is growing every day. And so new models need to be thought about, which the NCOP can contribute to as well, to ensure that there's a better spread of benefits, as the Honourable Member has been pointing out.
Thank you very much, the Honourable Minister. Honourable Mitilen.
I just want to pose this question to the Honourable Minister. Seems to be getting exhausted anyway.
Proceed, Honourable Mitilen.
Thank you so much. The Minister seems to be wearing two shoes today, both as Minister of Traditional Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs.
Honourable Mitilen, may you please come up with a question? I did render an apology.
It's a question, Madam. Okay. It's a question. I'm saying the Minister seems to be wearing two shoes. For both as Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and Public Service Administration, I just want to know, is he running both ministries? We just want him to tell this House if maybe he's running both ministries so that we can know. The reason why is because he's answering questions for both ministries. I just want to know if maybe he could be in a position maybe to say, maybe the President might have whispered into his ears when he's going to appoint the minister in the other department. Thank you, Chairperson. That's the question that I had.
Thank you, Honourable Mitilen. I am not going to allow the Minister to respond to the question because I did render an apology on behalf of the Minister, and you were here, Honourable Mitilen. If you did not listen, then that is... Can we then proceed, Honourable Members? The Honourable Mitilen does not have a question. Please take a seat, Papa. Take a seat. Can you take your seat? Honourable Mitilen, take your seat. Take your seat, Honourable Member. Honourable Mitilen, take your seat. Honourable Mitilen, take your seat. You were here when we were making an announcement. Can we then proceed, Honourable Members? The next question is all about the alleged loss of pension funds, which was asked by the Honourable Member Kaula. And I've received a note here that he did make an agreement with the Honourable Member Masango, so that she is agreeing. Thank you very much, Ma. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, whenever we walk with two shoes, don't we? So the response to Honorable Kaula's question is that our personnel salary system does not keep statistics on specific reasons why individual employees resign from the service. Although exit interviews are conducted by various departments when employees terminate service, employees do not always give the exact reasons why they are resigning. It would therefore not be plausible or possible to attribute all resignations during the mentioned periods to the rumors regarding the restructuring of the pension fund. According to the Government Pensions Administration Agency, the reasons cited by employees for terminating their service include the following. 1, difficulties in putting their children through tertiary education. 2, excuse me, those going through a divorce trying to avoid the negative effects of the clean break principle, which would require the spouse to receive a percentage of their pension when the divorce has been finalized, should the court order decree this. 3, employee indebtedness. 4, others mentioned that they had been offered better salaries elsewhere. And 5, whilst in some cases teachers had reported that they were certain that they would be reappointed shortly after resignation. In respect of the second part, to dispel the rumors, the Department of Public Service and Administration and the Treasury jointly issued a communique informing public servants that the pension reforms would only affect provident funds and not pension funds. The Minister in the Presidency, Minister Hadebe, explained through the SABC that the pension reforms would not be implemented immediately, and the first phase would only affect the provident funds. The Pensions Agency and the Government Employees Pension Fund also issued communiques on their respective websites and conducted a number of roadshows to educate their members about the impending pension reforms and the manner in which they would be implemented. In sum, Chairperson, there has been a lot of misunderstanding about this particular issue, but it appears that, notwithstanding that, we haven't had any serious panic reaction, but we should still do everything possible to educate public servants a lot more about how pensions funds work and the fact that our retirement industry is undergoing a transformation process itself in terms of the policy positions government has adopted, but nothing that happens in that change process would negatively affect the pension benefits of public servants.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Minister, for the response. Mine goes back to the reports that have gone out that those civil servants that have resigned and have put in claims for their pensions, that it takes long for them to get their pensions, and that there's delays when they contact the relevant departments. They get responses that they are either told that the documents are missing and all those things. So one would like to just find out from the Minister what could be the reason for these delays and what then is being done as a result. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Masango. Honorable Minister.
Well, as you know, if for example, person X is a person employed in Department Z and decides to leave the public service or leave that department, then firstly the person issues a resignation letter. That resignation letter needs to be processed by the HR section, and then the HR section of the department needs to inform the pensions agency that person X has resigned. Then a process of calculations begins to emerge or commence, and pension benefits are then actually determined. So the honourable member, from my previous experience, is quite correct that there are instances where this connection between the department you were employed by and the pensions agency doesn't work properly. I don't think it's in the majority of cases because there's a lot of efficiencies that have now been introduced. But the problem usually lies on the department side, which hasn't done the correct paperwork. Now remember that this would apply to both provincial departments and national departments as well. So some have the right capabilities and the right processes, and the process works, and others might actually have some difficulties. All I can suggest to anybody who has this kind of difficulty is to contact the pensions agency, because I think they do have ways in which they can actually assist with these sorts of inquiries.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I've seen a hand of the Honorable Member, Ms. Shalakis. Then Ms. Zwane will follow. The last one will be Honorable Mitile.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Honourable Minister, despite whether the rumours were true or not, we can't deny that there was, unfortunately, a rather big outflux in certain areas of skilled civil servants. What is the department doing? Well, the department, you've just indicated what the department tried to limit, or how the department tried to limit this, but how is the department trying to address the skills gap that this major outflux of skills has caused within the different departments in the civil servant? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
As I indicated, Chairperson, to the previous honourable member, that nothing in front of me seems to indicate that there was a major wave of resignation. There was a major wave of uncertainty. That's for sure. So if the honourable member knows something we don't know, he should provide us with the information so that we can begin to get the relevant departments to address those questions. But to the best of my knowledge, the kind of interventions that I've described earlier on did seem to calm waters. This happened a few years ago as well. So there was a few years ago when this uncertainty arose, and then more recently with budget announcements, the uncertainty arose again, largely out of the fact that there wasn't a sufficient understanding of how these processes actually work. So I'm afraid I can't give any concrete answer, Chairperson, because I don't have any evidence that large numbers of people have actually left this particular, or rather the employee of the state. And also there's objective research that I've presented from, in particular, the pensions agency, which shows that departures from the public service or resignation from the pension fund, because you could still remain in the public service, has many different factors that actually influence people. But if the honourable member has some concrete details, I can pass it on to the department and get a response for him.
If ever you have a concrete information, Honourable Member, you can submit it. You want to make a follow-up? Then you're taking a time for the other Honourable Members.
Honourable Chairperson, no, sorry, just quickly. The crux of the question was not the major influx so much as rather the outflux, or the major outflux, but rather the outflux of skills, whether it's 1 or 2 or 4 people. These departments already have skills shortages. So whether it was 2 people who resigned or 200 or 2,000, it still remains that skills got lost. How is that going to be addressed? That was the crux of the question. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for the clarity, Honourable Member. I mean, logically, once, for example, a CFO leaves, that position becomes vacant. You advertise the position, and you appoint a person in that place. And that would apply to other skilled positions within the public service. Depending on which department we're referring to, there'll be different types of skills that we're actually talking about. But I'm not, again, aware, or nor do I have information which suggests that there's a serious depletion in a particular area. There are always people interested in working for the public sector. In our department recently, we advertised a particular chief director position, for example. And about 800 people applied for one position. Now, a large number of them don't actually come anywhere near the qualifications that are required, but it shows that in our labor market, there's still opportunities for people, or rather people who want to seize opportunities to find employment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Sorry, Minister. The Honorable Member Mitilen.
I just want to find out something here. I saw Honorable...
Honorable Mitilen, please ask your question. That is my business.
It's a question.
I'll
Why do
deal
you
with
always
it.
threaten me? It's a question.
Direct your question to the Minister, not to the Honorable
Not
Member.
the Minister. It's a point of order.
It's a point of order,
Because I
okay.
saw
What is your point of
Honorable
order?
on the other side coming to whisper something. Is it allowed that members come straight to to you to whisper something into your ears? Because normally I understand that we need to, if I've got something to communicate to you, I have to write a note and give to the assistant, just deliver it to you. So I think it is a disorder of some kind. If you allow us, we'll keep on coming to you and whisper something to your ears. And are you going to handle it? Because you can't allow a member to move from a seat, come straight to you.
I want to respond, Honorable Mitilen.
Okay, please.
Okay. Well, I think we need to help the Honorable Member. If ever maybe she has something or any information or a question, she can always write the question as you are saying, and then it will reach me through a note. Thank you very much for that point of order. I hope she has heard you. But maybe she was taking advantage that she's just next to me and you are far. But we're not saying it must happen like that. You are right, Honorable Member. I am saying we discourage that. You have made your point, Honorable Mitilen. You have made your point, and I'm agreeing with you.
Member can move from the chair where they are sitting and come straight to you. You just imagine the kind of disorder that will cause if you allow that to happen.
Thank you, Honorable Mitilen.
Can
you take your seat? Take your seat, Honorable Mitilen.
I'll be the next one
take
to come
your seat, Honorable Mitilen.
I'll be the next one to come and do the same to you.
Honorable Mitilen, please take your seat. I have agreed. You raised a point of order and I've agreed with you, Honorable Member. So you want me to say you're out of order? Let's continue. We are continuing. Thank you very much. Honorable Zwane, it's your time now. Honorable Mitilen, please, man.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister, in your response, you did clarify that there were various mechanisms used to clarify these pension reforms. And I don't know if the minister could be kind enough as to actually explain the difference between Provident Fund and Pension Fund. Because it might just happen that some of the people in the civil service did not get privy to the information or were not part of the meetings where this issue was clarified, and whether also there is an ongoing program of actually clarifying this issue, especially also for those that are entrants in the civil service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zwane. Honorable Minister.
The major change that the Treasury policy position was advancing is to create a similar regulatory framework, if you can call it that, particularly in relation to taxation for both the provident funds and the pension funds. Now, I don't want to go into details, because I don't have any details in front of me and mislead you. But what we will do is try and get you some literature to perhaps explain this area. And because I'm not directly involved anymore, I'm not sure if there are ongoing programs. But again, the pensions agency is there as quite an efficient agency for anybody who has doubt to begin to get clarity. And in other instances, you have financial advisors who also assist people to get the right clarity in this particular regard. But the most important thing is any perception that one is going to be disadvantaged as a result of these changes. And that, there were even rumors, for example, that government is going to take my pension. So there were words like that were being used. Those are not true. These, as you know, are complex financial matters. So if there's a little bit of a misunderstanding by sometimes a journalist or whatever, then we communicate the wrong message, and then it has the unfortunate impact that it might actually have. And because pensions and savings are quite important for people, one can actually understand the sensitivity in this area. But let us get more information for you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mitilian, are you still ready to ask a supplementary question? Over to you.
My question to the minister, this time I'm not asking about these two shoes. Yeah, I know he's wearing two shoes. Mr. Minister, the question is, has government kept record of what those who resigned are doing post-public service? Yeah, I'm talking skills, the expertise that they take along with when they resign. I think if you could open your mind, you'll understand this question quite well. Thank you.
Honorable Mitilian.
If a department lack, a certain expertise, they look around for those people who have been doing well for a particular department. Then they negotiate with them, they give them contracts on a 2-year or 3-year. So this is very important. Whoever will say, yeah, when I ask this one, it means they don't understand what administration is all about. Thank you, House Chair.
Honorable Mitilian, I'll ask you, Papa, to respect our minister, please. But it is, no, the way you were asking your question, you even asked him to open up his mind. Did he tell you that the mind is closed? Oh, okay, Honorable Mitilian. Anyhow, that was a new question, but it will be up to the minister whether he's ready to respond to it. But I would still request your respect, Papa, in this house. Thank you very much. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Well, the direct question was, is there a record of where people go to after they leave a particular job? The answer is no. There was a follow-up comment, but I didn't entirely follow that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now we proceed to the question that deals with public servants conducting business with state entities, and the question is from the Honorable Groenewald. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Our response, Chairperson, is the following. The Public Administration and Management Act 2014 is not yet in effect. The current disclosure regime in the public service is implemented in terms of Chapter 3 of the Public Service Regulations of 2001, which requires members of the Senior Management Service to disclose their financial interests on an annual basis. For the 2014-15 disclosure period, members of the SMS who have submitted their financial disclosure forms electronically have disclosed directorships in private and public companies. There is currently no provision in the public service which prohibits employees to be part of a business entity which conducts businesses with the state. The current disclosure regime, that is the 2001 one, does not require SMS members to disclose whether the business entities they are part of are doing business with the state. Our plans are to implement Section 8 of the Public Administration Management Act of 2014 in the following way. The Minister for Public Service and Administration is in the process of regulating the implementation of the relevant provisions of this Act. The Minister has gazetted the revised Public Service Regulations for public comment. Chapter 2, Part 1, Section 12 seeks to prohibit public service employees from taking part or being part of business entities which do business with the state as a condition for approval of an application to do remunerative work outside the public service. Excuse me. Transitional measures will also be put in place to implement such a provision in order to phase out this phenomenon within the public service. And thirdly, Chapter 3 of the Public Service Regulations 2001 is in the process of being amended to make it compulsory for all the employees in the public service to disclose their financial interests. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Groenewald, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson, to the Honorable Minister. Corruption in the public services negatively impacts the ability of public servants to deliver services to the people of South Africa, especially to poor and vulnerable citizens in our society. This framework was brought into life specifically to reduce the levels of corruption in public services, especially relating to the disclosure of financial interests of state employees. However, serial offenders remain in the system. What mechanisms are in place to deal decisively with these serial offenders to ensure that public servants are not awarded tenders continuously? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Groenewald. Honorable Minister.
As I pointed out to Honorable Groenewald in the initial response, that you have a 2001 regime in terms of a framework. You now have a 2014 regime. The 2014 regime is now in the process of implementation. And what it will do is to disallow precisely the kind of conduct that you have concerns about and all of us will have concerns about. So we certainly agree with you that public services and the manner in which we respond to public needs should not be compromised by business interests or engaging in corruption or in improper activity. What is going to be done to serious offenders or serial offenders in the system? Once the 2014 regime is in place, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have the disclosure system operating, and on the third hand, you have what I described earlier on as a system to check individual disclosures that are actually made, which currently already happens through the Public Service Commission. What you will see as a result is firstly a detection of those who are engaging in those practices. Secondly, there are disciplinary structures and processes within government to deal with them once the evidence is actually available. And then over time, you're going to begin to reduce the number of people that you describe as serious offenders that we would have an interest in making sure don't exist in the public service as well. So, in essence, the framework, both old and new, will enable us to actually do that. And in time, we will reduce the number of people who are engaging in this kind of activity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I don't see Honorable Mitileni.
Thanks. House Chair, Mr. Minister, what measures has government put in place beyond the tick box on a tender form to ensure that public servants not use their children and wives, whom many don't even know that their names are attached with their businesses? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Yeah, I think the honourable member's concerns are quite important, and we've seen those practices in some provinces in South Africa. So the same answer that I gave to Honourable Groenewald applies in this instance as well. That as you have, firstly, the rules of the game tightened up, and that's the migration from the 2001 to the 2014 regulatory system. Secondly, you have now what is called an e-disclosure system, so these forms come in electronically. Thirdly, you have the system to detect non-disclosure. And fourthly, you have mechanisms to actually check through, for example, what is called the Companies Office, the CIPC, which will enable you to check who are directors of a particular company or business, and cross-check that with what is being declared within government itself. And then lastly, where you have reports from whistleblowers and the public, which will say X is doing this and Y is doing that. All of those sources of information and the institutions and mechanisms that are being created will help us to begin to detect these phenomena. And I think what's important is that if we, again, talk more about these sorts of things in the public domain, make people aware of the kind of techniques that are being utilized by different people. And by the way, we mustn't think that these are recent discoveries. I've come across in my previous capacity some of these very innovative and creative ways of doing things, as a result of which the public sector has lost a lot of money. And today, some of the beneficiaries of those processes proclaim themselves as angels in our environment. So let me thank Honorable Kroonewald for raising this question. I think it's an important point or issue that he is raising, and it's going to require all of us to work together to make progress in this area. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for the good work done. A round of applause, Honorable members, for the Honorable Minister. A big round of applause. Thank you very much. Re tšwela pele bjale re yo šoma le magorena ge le fitlha ka mare ba re šetše re amogetše batho re a le amogela le Eastlick ge le fitlha re šetše re amogetše batho minister re a le amogela. The question that follows is all about the citizen-based monitoring program, which was asked by the Honorable Mampuru, who is not here, but the Honorable Stock will then act on behalf of the Honorable Member Mampuru. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Yes. Oh, in the presidency. My apology, Mama.
Thank you very much. The aim of the citizen-based monitoring, or CBM, is to involve citizens in monitoring the quality of service they receive from government in order to improve public accountability and service delivery. The National Development Plan emphasizes the importance of fostering active citizenship in building a capable developmental state. Citizen-based monitoring supports this by emphasizing the building of capacity of both citizens and officials at the point where services are delivered, to monitor firstly how citizens experience service delivery, and secondly analyze the feedback from citizens, and thirdly take action for improvements, and lastly communicate to all stakeholders. With regards to the second part of the question, by participating in monitoring the quality of services provided by government, citizens are able to make a meaningful contribution on how services should be rendered and what improvements should be made to cater for their local needs. Most importantly, they bring a strong element of accountability on how services are provided to local communities. Thank you.
Minister. Supplementary question from Honorable Stock.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for such a comprehensive response. In your response, you have actually alluded to the fact that the citizen-based monitoring program is actually meant to strengthen accountability and monitoring of the services of government. So I would like to know, in terms of your own view, Minister, what is it that you think should still needs to be done in order to improve public accountability and the monitoring of service? Thank you.
There are two things that we are doing as the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Firstly is to ensure that we get as much citizens' involvement in monitoring and evaluation of their services through all the services that we provide to get citizens involved. But secondly, it is to ensure that there's as much information available to citizens in terms of in terms of the tools that we use to evaluate service delivery. Thirdly is to get citizens involved when we go and do the monitoring, the frontline service delivery monitoring. we get citizens involved in that process by informing them that we are going to be, unless if it's an unannounced visit, that we are going to be monitoring this particular facility to get their view on the service that is being rendered, and to also ensure that we provide feedback. And I think finally, if you check in all the public service institutions, there is the suggestion box or complaints box or whatever you want to call them, which we use as an important tool to monitor the participation of citizens in monitoring services and in also expressing what their views are in terms of the services provided. So we think if we strengthen all those areas, we will be able to strengthen citizens' participation.
Minister, any other question? Can we move over to question 133? The question on the name, appearing on the name of Honorable Lont, to the Minister in the Presidency. Minister.
Thank you for the question. Every year, the department conducts quality of service delivery assessments at selected frontline facilities. The assessments are focused on selected frontline facilities, namely schools, health, home affairs, magistrates' courts, driver's license testing centers, municipal customer care centers, South African social services agencies, and police stations. And since the inception of the frontline service delivery monitoring program in 2011, we have assessed a total of 678 frontline facilities, of which 60 were municipal customer care centers. These sites are specifically targeted because of the importance of the service they provide to citizens and the need for all users to receive a quality service when they use this facility. The findings of the frontline service delivery monitoring differ from site to site, and a detailed high-level findings report is available for scrutiny for all sites visited, and in the 8 key performance areas assessed for each site, namely location and accessibility, visibility and signage, queue management and waiting times, dignified treatment of clients, cleanliness and comfort, safety and opening and closing times. And of all these 8 key areas, the area that consistently scores the weakest is the complaints management. And the key performance area that scores the best is dignified treatment, opening and closing times, and location and accessibility. Thank you.
Mr. Honorable Lont.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Acting Chair. Firstly, congratulations on your promotion. Honorable Minister, what action steps will the government take to counter the violent service delivery protest in poor performing municipalities, also identified through these monitoring in your department?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Our monitoring and evaluation focuses on those 8 areas that I've indicated. We consolidate a report which we give to the relevant authorities, including especially cooperative governance, and on the basis of that, they choose what action they take, and that's all that we could do in terms of ensuring that there is action that is being met. And I must emphasize that because of the capacity, and we hope that that capacity will be built on, but because of the current capacity of DPME, we are unable to ensure that we effect overall monitoring of the more than 2,000 municipalities and also provincial government departments and national government departments. And that is why so few institutions, I think 670 institutions have been monitored, all of them followed by recommendations, and most of those followed by a follow-up visit on whether there has been action taken to remedy the defaults that were identified with our previous visits. Thank you.
Honorable.
Honorable Acting Chair, I'm actually standing on point of order. I think the Honorable Minister is actually misleading the public with that answer because I don't believe there is 2,000 municipalities in South Africa. There's 200 and something, not 2,000.
I did not catch that being said by the minister. However, we might check into the Hansard and clarify the matter if there be any.
I actually said 2,000 is right. It's more than 200 municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you for showing leadership, Deputy Minister. Honorable Lont, I don't see any other hand. Would I? Oh. Honorable Mpambo Shibukwana, before we go to Honorable Lont.
Thank you, Acting Chairperson. To the Minister, and this is specifically Minister to the Sengo municipality in the Eastern Cape. How long does it take to do a comprehensive assessment of frontline service delivery monitoring at local government? And are assessments conducted on an ongoing or just a once-off basis? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you very much. Well, it depends on the size of the municipality as to how long it will take, firstly. And secondly, we do make follow-ups. So we look at those areas which I had identified in my response, the 8 key performance areas which I had indicated. And we have what we call a baseline report, which is our first visit. And the first visit could either be an announced or an unannounced visit, and the follow-up visit would obviously be as per arrangement so that we get a comprehensive response from the municipality in terms of the improvements. But obviously, if we go there and say the toilet is not clean, and want to see a clean toilet the next time, we will not only rely on the written report, but obviously on a follow-up visit. As I said, with the response to the first question, we will also interact with citizens to ensure that we get a comprehensive response on the improvement of service delivery in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Lont, you are the last one on this session before we move to another question.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, in your response, it seems like it's more general approach that you're taking instead of a specific approach to municipality and areas where there's problems in service delivery protest. Now, wouldn't it be wise to rather go to municipalities where there's those problems, identify them, and then also use that information to apply to other municipalities to prevent it? Because at the moment, it seems like this is more a general approach and a tick-boxing exercise instead of working focused and addressing the problems in the municipalities where it happens more often, or even in some of the province or regions where it happens more often.
DM.
Look, I mean, the fact that there is a service delivery protest in one municipality does not mean that that's the only place where there are problems. In fact, I can tell you now that in many instances where there are no service delivery protests, where it is as calm as the Indian Ocean, that is where there are actually problems. And we have attended to those problems. Yes, where there is where there are service delivery protests, it means that we need to attend to all of those. And I can tell you now that in those areas, be it in relation to a municipality broadly, and the areas the key performance areas I've identified, only 2 specific relates to local government, which is your driver's license centers and your customer care in municipalities. But it doesn't mean that if there's a service delivery protest in whatever municipality, we wouldn't go there do an assessment, get a report, and make recommendations on what action needs to be taken. And I mean, if you are interested, we can give you the 650 plus centers which we have visited, and you will get a sense that there can be a protest in Madibeng when the bigger problem is in probably George or in Mudimulle, where it's quiet, where I come from. So it's not about only service delivery protest or where there's service delivery protest, but it is about us going randomly into an institution and visiting, or getting a written letter, like I did on Tuesday to Easterest to go and check at the police station and the hospital, where a letter was written to the president. So it is those type of things which leads to a visit being made at a service delivery point. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. We're now moving on to question 121 as appearing on the order paper under the name of Honorable Ntebe, which will now be taken over by the Chief Whip as the follow-up question. DM.
The department is ensuring that, and working together with youth organizations, we are ensuring that youth development becomes the country's imperative. And I think there is no doubt with the commitments that the President has made thus far that youth development is at the center of the current term. And in this regard, the President launched the Presidential Youth Working Group in 2015 to promote youth participation in governance and policy making, and to mainstream youth development and empowerment in the work of government in order to build a better life for young people. The working group is chaired by the President, supported by a task team of deputy ministers, which I chair. And during the inaugural meeting of the Presidential Youth Working Group, the President met with youth formations representing various sectors, including education, agriculture, small business, sports, religious sectors, health, and so forth. And in taking forward the work of the Presidential Youth Working Group, the department has established the following work streams, which is on economic participation and transformation, education and skills and second chances, healthcare and combating substance abuse, nation building and social cohesion, and lastly, effective and responsive youth development institutions. The plans of these work streams will form part of the integrated youth development strategy, and progress will also be included in the medium-term strategic framework for proper monitoring and evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, GM. Chief Whip.
Thank you very, very much, Chair of the session. Ke rata go leboga karabo ye mohlomphege ministera yo muswa wa mananego a baswa. Karabo ye a ifilego. Ke kgopela go tseba gore youth policy ye le di working group di fihlelela le bala ba kwa magaeng. Ba magaeng ba ka morago ga dithaba. Ke kgopela o tseba hore gape le lebeletše across the urban rural divide. Gape le gore re lebeletše policy ye across the haves and the have-nots divide. Ke kgopela tlhalošo mohlomphege ministera ka ofising ya mo president. Ke a leboga.
Honorable DM.
Thank you very much. Firstly, the composition of the Presidential Working Group on Youth is of youth organizations across all sectors. And in fact, there were more young people who are working, or who are rather working with youth in rural areas, and more young people who are actually involved in rural development work and agricultural work. And we have asked both the South African Youth Council and the National Youth Development Agency to invite the people who participated in the presidential working group on youth. And we are quite happy with the fact that it included the majority of young people who are from all sectors or representative of all sectors. Now, coming to the National Youth Policy, we identify various sectors of young people as the targets within which the youth policy wants to focus on. It's young women or the girls, it's young workers, it's unemployed youth, it's youth going to school, it's rural youth, and it's youth with disabilities. So it's a whole range of young people in the various sectors whom the policies seek to address their needs, interests, and aspirations. So my kemišetšo a policy ke go ka akaretša moswa o mong le o mong mo Afrika Borwa o e leng gore o gomiwa ke tšona dilo tše e leng gore re di bontšhitše mo go yone National Youth Policy gore e leka go ka di address. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Faber.
Thank you, my Honourable Chair. The new youth policy 2015-2020 signed by Honourable Minister basically makes it an already overburdened state mainly entirely responsible for addressing youth unemployment by becoming the primary employer of South Africa's youth. This is surely an unsustainable policy, Minister. Will the Honourable Minister consider to rather introduce a real youth wage subsidy, like we've got in the Western Cape, for instance, as opposed to amendment to the current employment tax incentive and creating incentives for rather than imposing penalties on the private sector to take an active role in creating the necessary jobs that South African youth so desperately needs?
Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. That was the statement the Democratic Alliance issued yesterday here in reaction to the signing of the policy. So it's not essentially a follow-up question. But anyway, the South African Receiver of Revenue would give us...
Is there a point of order?
Yes, Chair. Sorry, but that was actually a question, Honourable Chair, and I'd like to have a straight answer. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, but the answer has been given to you. The noble thing you can do is to listen to the answer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The response or the report that we have received in terms of the youth employment incentive in its first year was that 275,000 youth jobs have been created. And we think that we need to look at the progress in terms of the implementation of the youth employment incentive. But secondly, that a so-called youth wage subsidy does not, for us, we think, constitute the silver bullet to resolve youth unemployment. And that's why the Youth Employment Accord, which sometime later in the year, we will be announcing the outcomes together with the department, well, with the Ministry of Economic Development, together with the interventions proposed in the National Youth Policy, constitute multiple interventions. And we think that we should not be locked into a one solution-based type of an approach, which says, let's incentivize private industry in order to ensure that we stimulate youth employment. In fact, some of the proposals that are made in the youth employment, in the National Youth Policy and the Youth Employment Accord, are far cheaper interventions, which much more bigger in terms of scale, output in terms of our own calculations, as compared to, committing 5 billion rands into a youth wage subsidy. So we are looking at a multiplicity of interventions that, in our view, will have a much bigger impact than a single intervention, which is the youth wage subsidy. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Mohapi and Honorable Ntara.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson. Deputy Minister, there was an outcry in Khayelitsha when the Minister Khatebe visited the area around this youth policy. I just want to establish, because at times it might be the perceptions that are being created by media fraternity. In terms of consultation, I just want to establish if there was any extensive consultation processes with regard to the 9 provinces in our country. If yes, how was it done? Thank you.
Honorable TM.
Thank you very much. What happened was we had extensive consultations. I mean, we had meetings all over the provinces. Every province had at least one meeting. Some provinces had more than one meeting. Secondly, we received more than 100 submissions on the youth policy. Some a paragraph, some a booklet. We had hundreds of meetings with youth organizations, and most of those I was part of the meetings, and all of that culminated in we have consultations on social media, everywhere else. So we ensured that we go to where young people are. We went to taxi ranks, we went to Shabins. Sorry for not having invited you, but we also went there, to talk to young people about the national youth policy. We went to train stations, went everywhere else where, to engage with young people, to schools and so forth. So it was extensive consultation. All of that culminated into the National Consultative Conference, where we asked all provincial governments to sponsor a delegation of 45 people to participate in the National Consultative Conference. All provinces, all youth formations, with the exception of the Western Cape province, participated in the national consultation. The outcry yesterday in Khayelitsha was in relation to specifically that, and it was more a protest, towards the provincial government than towards, the minister. And the young people are saying, why, if all the other provinces supported young people to participate in the final leg of the consultation, why did our own government not support us to have that consultation? What we have committed to, the policy is now in place, it is signed, we cannot change it, but what we've committed to is continuous dialogue with the youth of the Western Cape in terms of the design of the strategy, which should be ready within a space of a month. So we are going to go, to engage with them also on that. But they were consulted, only that they were not in the final leg of the consultation.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, Honorable Mtara. This is the last hand. This is the last hand in the follow-up. No, but Honorable Mtara, can you proceed? Can you allow Honorable Mtara to proceed?
Thank you. Thank you, Acting Chair.
The point of order, Honorable Smith.
Honorable House Chair, I've got a problem that is the last question because it isn't 4 questions yet. The Honorable Faber asked the one question. So that's 1, 2, 3.
So I'm supposed to be the 4th one.
Is it the order that you want to raise, Honorable Smith? Are there 4 follow-up questions? Let me clarify you, Honorable Smith. Honorable Matime asked a follow-up question, and we had Honorable Faber, Honorable Mohabi, and we have Honorable Mutara. So if you could concentrate, this will assist. Honorable Mutara.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. Deputy Minister, you recently undertook or you led a delegation to the BRICS Youth Summit. Could you maybe share with us some of the highlights or some of the agreements reached there, and if they are also in line with the youth policy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. When we went to the BRICS Youth Summit, we identified 5 key areas which would want to cooperate with the BRICS countries. The first one was entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial support. And we reached a comprehensive agreement on exchange in terms of not only the skills, but also possibly, market access for particularly South African small businesses. And given the outcomes of the heads of states meeting, we are quite confident that it would be extremely beneficial for young South Africans, especially small businesses, in terms of the entrepreneurial leg. The second area was around sports, and we had agreed that in the near future there should be greater cooperation in relation to sports amongst young people in BRICS countries. The third area was in education. There was commitment in terms of exchange, but also placement of scholarships, and fortunately, the agreements already exist between South Africa and all the BRICS countries in terms of bilaterals. And the issue was, how do we upscale those? So we think that we'll be seeing more South African young people going to study in the different big BRICS countries. And fortunately, the sterling work that has been done by the Department of Higher Education means that that work or that area of work would be easily upscaled. The fourth area of work was on institutionalizing cooperation between the youth ministries and the youth agencies of the 4 countries. And this has led to the signing of an agreement between what we call the BRICS youth ministers, which basically outlines all the other areas of cooperation. And the final one was essentially getting the voices of youth in the BRICS countries to be heard in the platform of the heads of state. We have not gotten essentially what we wanted with this meeting, with the Russia meeting, but we think when we meet in India, we would be able to get the voice of young people heard in the meetings of the heads of states. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. We will now proceed to question 126 as appearing on the order paper under the name of Honorable Kaula. I have been informed that Honorable Masango will be taking over the follow-up question. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. The department has not conducted an evaluation on the National Prosecutions Authority in the 2014-2015 financial year. That's the question A. And in the South African Police Service, one evaluation is being done for the 2014-2015 financial year. The focus of this evaluation is on the economic evaluation of the incremental investment into the SAPS forensic services. The purpose of the evaluation is to determine whether the benefits or outcomes of the annual increment investment into SAPS forensic services outweigh the costs which is input or not, and the evaluation will provide useful evidence on the implementation of the incremental investment into the SAPS forensic services and how its effectiveness can be optimized. The results of this evaluation will be made available once it is concluded.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Masango, you're fine. Any supplementary question? Honorable Timunya. Tileni, I apologize. I would not want Honorable Timunya to have hard feelings.
Thank you so much. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, how are you responding to a call by Corruption Watch that Mr. Ngasana should pay back the 17 million rand golden handshake offered to him by the President? Are you in support of that, or are you in defiance?
Honorable Deputy Minister, it's up to you to answer the question. The question here relates to performance, not a golden handshake. If you so fit that you should answer, we are in your hands.
Thank you very much. I think the honorable member is entitled to his questions, and I'm entitled to my answers. And in this regard, I will not respond to the question because I strongly believe it is a new and very different question, which doesn't even fall within my purview or the purview of any government official. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We will now proceed to question 1, 2, 3.
On a point of order.
Can I listen to the point of order, Honorable Mtilen?
Honorable Deputy Minister is just shying away from answering this simple question because he knows that there was a golden handshake offered to Mr. Ngasan by the President. But he may not say he's not in a position to answer that one because Corruption Watch has been questioning this. So I'm saying to him, his department, is he supporting the Corruption Watch on their call that the Ngasana should pay back the 17 million golden handshake offered to him by the President? It's a simple question.
Can I clarify you, Honorable Mtilen?
Please, you can.
Honorable
Or answer me if you have an answer.
Honorable Mtilen, you are making a dangerous assumption that Honorable Deputy Minister knows the answer that you are seeking from him. What we are relating to you explicitly is that the question should be put to the Deputy Minister relevantly, and as you are asking now, that question is not relevant to the question as appearing on the order paper. Can we then proceed? Can we proceed to the question 1, 2, 3 as appearing on the order paper under the name Honorable Singh, Deputy Minister?
Thank you, Chairperson or Acting Chairperson. The department is fulfilling its mandate of planning, monitoring, and evaluating government priority outcomes in order to meet the developmental needs of South Africans and the quality of government public services provided to citizens. To this end, we have developed a long-term plan, which is the NDP, and the implementation tool, which is the Medium-Term Strategic Framework, or MTSF, and the monitoring mechanisms such as the Program of Action and other monitoring programs such as the Citizen-Based Monitoring Program, Local Government Improvement Model, and the Frontline Service Delivery Monitoring, amongst others. Through our National Evaluation Framework, we are also evaluating key government programs to determine their impact on our citizens. For example, we conducted the evaluation of the Export Market Investment Assistance Program, which is under the Department of Trade and Industry. And the purpose of the evaluation was to establish if the program is achieving its intended objective. The evaluation found that from 2009-10 to 2012-13, the Export Marketing and Investment Assistance assisted 6,766 exporting enterprises, paid out claims to a total value of 510 million, and created a total of 24,800 jobs. And the evaluation also found that users of the scheme are satisfied with the administration and implementation of the scheme, and clear guidelines are in place for both the application and selection process, as well as the disbursement of funds. Moreover, roughly 35% of firms assisted are majority historically disadvantaged, individual-owned, and just over 1/4 of firms are majority women-owned. Youth are substantially less represented, which is something which we strongly raised, amongst those who benefit, and with only 7% of firms surveyed majority owned by young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the Deputy Minister for his response. I believe that the Deputy Minister has answered the question. I have no further question.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister. I just want to establish Part of your responsibility was to ensure that you make a meaningful impact in terms of government on citizens. And thanks very much for the clarity that you have just outlined. It's very clear that there's a lot that is taking place, but my main worry is around information cascading down to the ordinary people in the street. What are the measures in place that to ensure that ordinary people in the street are not misled? Instead, they get the information as concretized as we have just placed it now. Indeed, this program might be covered, Deputy Minister, but the issue in question, how many of our people that are accessing this important information? Thank you very much.
Honorable DM.
Thank you very much. I think it's quite unfortunate that the significant part of what government is doing does not actually reach out to our citizens, and obviously we'll have to improve on the communications that we have with our citizens. And I think in many instances there is an idea that, or rather the idea that our country is, or in an abyss, dominates and become the the dominant messaging when everybody else believes that we are on the right track. And I think an example would be our assessment as the department of the presidential hotline, where we did a follow-up of the people who called and whether were they happy with the service, and generally whether were they happy with government services. And the overwhelming majority of the people who actually were surveyed by through the presidential hotline were all happy with the service that they received. So I fully agree that the volume around the positive things that are happening in our country needs to go up, because they far outweigh the negative things which seem to be the dominant things that are consistently being reported. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Without any further supplementary question, we are now proceeding to question 157, as printed on the other paper under the name Honorable Mdileni. Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. The monitoring and evaluation measures put in to ensure that government programs planned by government departments meet the need of the citizens are that government has developed a long-term plan, which is the National Development Plan. We've also put in place, as I indicated earlier, the program of action. And to ensure that the department's plans meet the needs of the citizens, we've created a mechanism by requiring departments to submit their strategic plans and annual plans to both the Department of Monitoring, Planning and Evaluation and National Treasury to assess whether their plans are aligned to the NDP and the medium-term strategy framework. And through our National Evaluation Framework and the budget review process, both DPME and Treasury assesses whether departmental plans geared towards meeting the imperatives of the NDP and therefore the needs of our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DM. Honorable Mtileni.
Thank you, Acting Chair. Deputy Minister, do you currently have any monitoring and evaluation activities taking place in municipalities and government departments? And since you have suggestion boxes, and maybe at times you do get information from whistleblowers, from members of the public, I just want to know what sort of complaints seem to be very common from those, public places or boxes that you get, and how have you reacted to such concerns or complaints? Thank you.
Honorable DM.
Thank you very much. We monitor and evaluate each and every sphere of government, national, provincial, and local government. We have just finalized a tool which specifically focuses on local government monitoring and evaluation, which is more or less similar with the national tool, which is used to monitor and evaluate national government departments. And that tool helps us to determine whether, whether a municipality is functional or not, and that the outcomes of that tool, which is currently in, and as I said, when I came here, I think late last year or early this year, that that tool is still in a pilot phase in terms of local government, and we're sharing that information with the cooperatives and local government department, COGDA. And we believe that the tool is helping us with regards to the municipalities that we've put under evaluation to help us anticipate what could be the problem and to also ensure that we help those municipalities, you know, to avert all of those problems. So, but I think more importantly, at any given day, at any given time, you know, we can go into any municipality and say to them, this is what we are, you know, looking for in terms of performance, and also in terms of the 8 key areas which I identified, which I mentioned earlier on with the first question. And on the basis of that, then we will know what is happening. I'm not in a position to give an outline of the complaints, customer complaints from the complaints boxes. The intention of those boxes are predominantly to help the institution where they are placed, you know, to resolve those issues. So if we go to a municipality, it's, maybe let me even give an example of the community healthcare center I went to in Esteras on Tuesday. So they have a box, the community puts in complaints, and then you have 5 people who open that box who are in a managerial position, so that if they complain about the head sister or the head nurse, she doesn't tear that paper, you know, and say no one is complaining about me. So there are 5 people who are opening those complaints, and they act on those complaints. And I was very impressed that many of the people I spoke to at that hospital said, look, we're happy with the service here. All that we need is more staff, which was predominantly the complaints which went into the complaints box. But as I also said with one of the responses, just very briefly, is that predominantly, you know, communities complain about the effectiveness of the use of the complaints boxes. I went to a hospital where I come from in Mutimule. No one had the key to the complaints box. You know, but fortunately that's been sorted out after our visit there. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Mpampo Shibukwana.
Thank you, Chairperson. To you, Honorable Minister, given the fact that more than 50% of your department's budget is allocated to the National Youth Development Agency, and your department's core responsibility is to monitor the performance of individual, national, provincial, and municipalities, what challenges does the department experience to fulfill this core mandate? Thank you.
Honorable GM.
Thank you very much. The budget of the National Youth Development Agency, which, by the way, we have consistently argued that is insufficient if we are to fully implement the youth development agenda that this administration was a transfer from the presidency to DPME. And it's not even 50%. It is actually double the budget of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have approached Treasury. We are in discussions with them in ensuring that the budget of the DPME actually increases, and most of that increase will go to the planning, monitoring and evaluation task. And the vision, or rather the plan, is to have a planning and monitoring evaluation function at a district, provincial, and also more comprehensively at a national level. And we hope that you know, when the budget has to be approved in Parliament, if we do get that increase, that all the political parties will support us, and especially because of the work that we're already doing with the Parliamentary Budget Office and with some of the portfolio committees in helping Parliament to hold you know, government accountable, because we believe that it helps us if we have you know, members of Parliament empowered in terms of what's happening as it relates to monitoring and evaluation. What also helps us a lot is the fact that most departments are building internal capacity in terms of planning, monitoring, and evaluation. So they give us their report, and through the outcomes coordinators, you know, we're able to make an assessment of those reports. But we believe with more capacity, we will be able to do our work much more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Makwe.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Minister, the question that I wish to raise is related to the final remarks that you made. And I think that this is an opportunity to then ask whether the posting of a question like this is not a reflection of our poor understanding of our own role as members of the NCOP, because we have an oversight responsibility to deal with both municipalities, which we just did a week ago when we visited the municipalities. We will, within the latter part of this month, have our local government week, and we also have the various departments of government reporting to us in the select committees and in the National Assembly to the portfolio committees. I therefore think, Chair, that it is going to be important that the Minister, the Deputy Minister, uses this opportunity also to evaluate the extent to which we have an understanding of our role.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Acting Chair. Unfortunately, that does not lie within my job description, so I, you know, regretfully, you know, declined to do that evaluation. But I think, you know, self-evaluation is more powerful than external evaluation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TM. Honorable Mahapi.
Thank you very much, Acting Chair. Deputy Minister, let me once again welcome the measures that have been put in place by the Department of Monitoring and Performance in order to ensure that we meet the needs of our people, because in most instances where we are unable to address such a need, there will always be unnecessary unrest. Let me also welcome, Deputy Minister, the commitment from the side of the leadership, not only to collect information, but also to ensure that we provide leadership. But my question is one: how do we ensure that monitoring and evaluation doesn't solely end up from the side of government? How do we ensure that there's a systematic involvement of our citizens on issues of monitoring? Thank you.
Honorable TM.
Thank you very much. The citizens-based monitoring approach allows, in fact, gives citizens the power to, you know, to participate in the monitoring and evaluation process without the exercising the option to strike or protest and all of that. Secondly, the presidential hotline gives citizens the power to complain about any service whatsoever that they are unhappy about, which we have attended to more than 90%. We had a response of more than 90% of the complaints that citizens have lodged through the presidential hotline. And inevitably, if the president says, but you know, someone is complaining about your department, you will have to act on that. But thirdly, that when we do the frontline service delivery monitoring, we do not only rely on the report we get from either the station commander or the municipal manager or whoever that we find there, but we also interact with citizens who gives us a better perspective. You can go into a hospital and the manager tells you, look, we've got one of the most efficient queue management system, but you speak to an old mother there who's been there since 5 a.m. and you are there at about 12, 1 o'clock. 12, 1 o'clock because it's a better time to go and do a surprise visit, because people would have taken an early lunch, so you'd have caught them by the real surprise. But people would have been there from 5 to 1, 2, and all of that. So it gives you a better perspective of what the challenges are. I must say that, being one of, I think, 5 countries in the continent and one of very few countries in the world which have monitoring and evaluation, infused in government, and also only having had this system, now on its 6th year, I think that we are doing much better than many would have expected us to do. We just have to improve in the response and actioning of some of the complaints that our citizens have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. That was concluding the questions on your part. We would like to take the opportunity to thank you very much for availing yourself to respond to the questions posed to your department. We would now proceed. Don't be shy, you can clap hands. We would now proceed to the questions as appearing on the order paper. And the responsible minister is the Minister of Women in the Presidency. Welcome, Minister, and we can proceed to question 114 as appearing on the question on the order paper under the name Honorable Manopole, but I have been informed that it will be taken over by Honorable Zwane. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just a correction. I am not the Minister for Women in the Presidency. I'm the Minister in the Presidency for women in South Africa. The reason I'm correcting that, if you say, it means I'm just responsible for those few women in the office of the President. I'm responsible for the country, so I thought I need to correct that.
You are protected, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. The reply to the question is that since we've created this department, ours it's a different department which is not responsible for service delivery. But our mandate is to enable that the socio-economic empowerment of women, which we are responsible for providing frameworks for gender mainstreaming, but also doing that through outreach program, through oversight, monitoring and evaluation of other government departments. Not only them, we're responsible for civil society, business, in making sure that all sectors of society can advance the interest of women. But also, when we talk about some of the programs we have, it's also to be in partnership with various stakeholders, including religious grouping, in advancing the interest of women in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Minister in the Presidency for Women.
Let's respect that.
No, thank you. You have adequately answered the question, but there's just one issue that I wish to establish with you, Honorable Minister. I want to believe that there would be an instrument that your ministry uses to monitor and evaluate the programs that are meant to advance and develop women in all the departments. But then evaluating the effectiveness of these programs would be with a view to ensuring that we review or we realign or we do whatever is necessary to further develop the women's programs. I would then request, Honorable Minister, to just share us a few of your success stories in terms of developing women more along the lines of economic development programs by different government departments, but that are actually meant to develop women economically. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Zwane. Just to indicate, one of the mechanisms which is responsible in ensuring that the development or gender mainstreaming does happen in various departments, we have gender focal points in various departments. But we are in the process of reviewing that because currently it's very, very weak. It's an instrument which is supposed to be effective in ensuring that various departments do address matters of women. We're reviewing the structure, but also its location, because there's a variance by departments. In some departments, it's at senior management level. In some departments, it's at a peripheral. For instance, if you go to provinces, you find that there's a challenge that it's tucked sometimes within social development. Then it immediately tells you about the thinking when it's linked to social development. So we are developing that to mainstream the gender focal points to be. One of our recommendations will be that it should be in the DG's office. It must also form part of performance agreements of the DG so that it becomes a key indicator. If the department does not perform when it comes to women empowerment training, but also the department, the number of women they have, then the DG can take responsibility as the accounting officer. But looking at some of the programs we have, for instance, programs where we're in partnership with UWESO, where we're looking at young women, taking them through from grade 10 up to university. So far, there are about 12,000 young women who have been trained in science, technology, and maths. Some are already working. So it's part of the program which we are working with in ensuring that young women or young girls are able to access education in your core areas of skills in South Africa. We're working with the Department of Agriculture in a program whereby we intend to have one of its kind where women are going to be involved in a feedlot. I hope we know what is a feedlot. A feedlot, abalimi bayazi, it's a value chain in lamb nurturing, where then there's a space where they feed the sheep to have a particular weight. So we're having a partnership around that with the Department of Agriculture in making sure that women are there. And we're looking much more broader on that, where we'll be able to look at working together. It's our first pilot, where we'll want to make sure that the wool which is cut, it doesn't only go to Italy, it can be processed or beneficiated here. The issue of the skin can be beneficiated in South Africa. And we are also talking of a possibility setting up of Plenary, in ensuring that we can create more jobs for our people, but also we are in partnership with some of the farmers who are keen to train our people. So it's some of the projects which we are involved in advancing that. And the various departments have various programs, including the small business through cooperatives. Just to share with you, honorable members, we're going to have a partnership. We're in partnership with Small Business and Limpopo. On the 4th, if I'm not wrong, of 4th and 5th of September, we're going to have a trade fair in Musina, where we'll be having women from South Africa and Zimbabwe coming together on a trade fair where we are starting to deal with the free trade agreement which our countries have signed within the SADC. So it's part of advancing the interest of women, because what is going to happen within the free trade agreement, women are going to be ignored and men will run ahead as usual. So we want to make sure this free trade agreement also recognizes the importance of trading amongst women within the region, but also within the continent. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Mahapi.
Thank you very much, Acting Chair. Minister, South Africa is a unitary state where you'd always find issues that are happening national would always cascade to the level of local sphere. We did oversight in various municipalities, and what we have observed is a lack of women's desk in other municipalities. Given that the minister spoke about strategies to coordinate issues of women, how are you going to ensure that also the local municipalities are equally benefiting in terms of coordinated approach that you are referring to? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Mohapi. Just with reference to the coordination, when talking about the reviewal of the gender focal points, that would include the municipalities. The way we want to see the new structure working, we want to make sure that we have at national departments, then we are going to make sure that the Premier's office takes responsibility for the province. Then what we also do, then we have like your local government, MEC, taking responsibility for the municipalities, because in that way, then we are able to evaluate the work done at the municipality level. Part of the weakness which we've seen in the past is that the department wanted to go and do oversight or do the monitoring, and you're talking about 280-something municipalities, which was impossible. So you need a system which will make the MEC take responsibility and account to the province through the Premier's office, and then we will be working with the Premier's office through the structure which we would have created in making sure that our systems, for instance, we're establishing monitoring as an evaluation like DPME, specifically focusing on the advancement of women, but also programs which are created at various government levels, including the private sector, in ensuring that we're able to move forward. That is why the question of local government, we want to tighten up the program or the process and the accountability in a way that anybody, for instance, if you do oversight and as the NSOP, you know exactly what you're looking for. Because where we are right now, there are so many systems, you don't know which one you need to look at. Whatever they say, you accept. So I hope early next year we'll be able to come here with a system which when you do your oversight, you can take it along and use it as a measuring tool in seeing whether there's progress in the various municipalities when it comes to women. And the last point which we also talking about, it's we want systems which can be audited. We want systems which, when the Office of the Auditor General goes out and do audit, they can audit performance on women by the various departments, be it national or provincial and local. And we're having an engagement with the AG. He's very excited about that. In fact, he was saying he believes that is long overdue, because if we don't do that and allow them to be part of that when it comes to their own audit, it means women are not going to be able to be prioritized and be given the opportunity in the various components of government. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for the response that outlined the role of the department in the advancement of women. One would then think that the advancing women economically would work even better if those women are supported even in their homes. And my question is, has the minister, what is the role of the department in supporting women who are victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse, as it were? Thanks, Minister.
Minister, the question is somehow taking a tangent. It's up to you whether you want to answer it.
No, I think it's an important question, Chair. I will take it because it's a question which deals with the challenge which women faces on a daily basis. My department, it's not an isolated department. It's a department within a collective government which is integrated. And I think we all understand the kind of democracy we have in South Africa. Therefore, some of the issues which the honorable member has raised, if you look at the social development, it has various mechanisms which they put in place, like your places of safety to deal with issues of domestic violence and abuse of women. But also when we look at it again, we have what is called Tutuzela centers within the NPA. And part of their responsibility is to make sure that they deal with abuse of women and domestic violence at various times. So these are some of the facilities which exist. But we're not only looking at that, we're also looking at how best are we going to integrate systems, including what we will be evaluating, whether the services rendered, for instance, at police stations when women go and report, are they adequate enough to advance the interests of women? And the places of safety too. One of the issues which we're looking at is to make sure that those places are safe and the women can be protected. That's why we have the white doors, which are part of your safety places in making sure that both women and children are safe in those places. Those are the mechanisms of making sure that women are able to be empowered, but also be able to move on with their lives. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Ngqita.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. In also following those that are thanking the Minister on the report, response well presented, and also the information to this NCOP. I just want to follow up on your presentation, Minister, on restructuring the structure of women, both in provincial level and also at a national level, gender focal points. But in your presentation, you really fall short of telling us at a local level, the location of the office rather than the MEC's office. And also the point of levels of those people that will be manning those offices. I'm raising this because it has been a challenge that you'll get a gender focal person that is at a very lower level who doesn't have an influence or else able to be having an authority in meetings that the person is attending. So I would like you, Honorable Minister, to just fill that gap for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Nika, on that. Just to, you are right, we've really looked, let me do this. We've really looked at that to say we must make sure that there's no gap. The issue of the levels are very, very important. And that's one of the key issues which you've identified to say you can't have gender focal points who are assistant director. They don't have authority, they don't sit in management meetings. Therefore, it becomes a peripheral issue. We are addressing that. Our proposal, for instance, is that in national government, we want to see chief directors in DG's office, including in the MECs, the HOD offices. That's where gender focal points must be. That is why I said it's not just enough. They must be audited. When you deal with the performance agreement of your HOD, the issue of women must form part of his performance areas. At the local government level, what we are proposing is that the mayoral office, the mayor's office, must have it too, at a strategic level, not at a junior level, because if we really want to advance and entrench the struggles of women in South Africa, we must put them at the center of decision making, so as to ensure whatever issues are being discussed, then it becomes part of that instead of what we are seeing now. It's a peripheral, and to a point, my observation is that those who are gender focal points, They come to meetings. When you meet their seniors, they don't even know. They're not even aware that there was a meeting. That's what creates a problem for us until we make sure that it's entrenched in appropriate structures. That's the only way we'll see mainstreaming and gender activities really being taken serious. I mean, if an HOD is not performing when it comes to gender mainstreaming, he can't get a bonus or she can't get a bonus. So that's how we're trying to make sure that it's taken serious and it's different in our country. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. That was the last follow-up question. We proceed to the question that was asked by the Honorable Member Masango. Over to you, Honorable Minister. The question on alleged sterilization of HIV-positive women.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question asked by the Honorable Member, as the Department of Women, we have not received any written or verbal complaint on this matter, and I believe that this is a question which should be correctly referred to the Department of Health because they have the better competencies in dealing with the matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The question is being referred to the Honorable Member Masango. Thank you very much, Ma, for taking note of that. We proceed to the other question, which deals with the strategic framework for gender equity, which was asked by the Honorable Member Zwane. Over to you, Mama. Question 119. Whether the strategic framework for gender equity within the public service is achieving its main objectives. If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? That's the question.
My apology, Chair, it's late at night. Thank you, Honorable Chair. The reply to Honorable Zwane is that the Gender Equality Strategic Framework for the Public Service provides the framework for achieving as its main objective the empowerment of women in the public service as a whole. It promotes gender parity within senior management and decision-making levels, and its implementation is showing positive results. Given the 40% of women currently at senior management level, where we have 9 women director generals in national departments, whilst these figures, as we all know, that we're looking forward to parity of 50-50, we still feel is not satisfied, but the public service is on the right track. The Gender Equality Strategy also has institutionalized the Women Management Week, which takes place during the last week of August. It also requires government departments to report on progress to the DPSA, which looks at the conduciveness of the work environment in the public service. The Women Management Week provides an opportunity for women senior managers to engage with top management on challenges in the workplace and measures to improve their working conditions towards a gender equal and empowering environment. In addition, the Gender Equality Strategic provides guidance to heads of departments through the 8-principle plan in relation to women's empowerment and gender equality for both women as public servants and service delivery to women in society. The 8 principles are namely transformation for non-sexist, establishing a policy of environment, meeting equity targets, creating an enabling environment, mainstreaming gender empowerment, providing adequate resources, and accountability, monitoring, and evaluation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mama. The Honorable Member Zwane, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I'm satisfied with the answer, and also in light of the report by His Excellency the President on the 9th of August, we are happy with the progress that is being made with respect to development and advancement of women. However, we cannot rule out the fact that there are those that are still trailing behind, that think that gender equity is all about tokenism. I don't know if the minister would actually educate those and actually explain that merit in terms of achieving gender equity plays a major role. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mezwane. You are satisfied, but you want the Honorable Minister to educate those. So I don't know whether the lesson is ready now. If it is ready, we can check with the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. Just to say, the question of gender equality as tokenism. I think in South Africa, we've always had capable women. And it did not start now. It started many, many years ago. Our history talks to people like Mantatise, who was a warrior as a woman and who fought during the Twani-Pambata Wars and protected Lesotho. And she was there as a warrior, as a woman. We have Mantsopa. When you go to Lady Brand, you find her history there. That's another warrior who fought in the various wars of South Africa in making sure that she becomes a leader. We have leaders of Charlotte Maxeke, who in 1913 led a march, despite that the ANC was formed in 1912 without women. But she was the bravest woman who pulled women together. And if we remember, it's not the ANC which started dealing with struggles of resistance. She was the first one who led a march of women in the Free State, where she led despite whatever and faced the repressive system of the time and fought the past laws. When we talk about 1950, the 50s, when there was this whole hype of the struggles of South Africa, which led to the Freedom Charter and the repressive law, Mantatise was already there. So it shows that the leadership of women, it's not just a tokenism, it's always there. And understand the women of 1956, we've seen that. We've seen the CODESA again, when the women of South Africa came together in the coalition and contributed in the constitution of this country. So there has never been a space where our women were never at the center of any struggles or contributing to anything. As we are talking today, once more, in an area where it was defined as men's environment in the economic sector. If we look at the report which was launched by the president, a lot of inroads have been made by women. We have women in mining today. We have a woman who owns a mine, started from scratch, not got some remnants from some people who left, started from scratch in manganese. We're getting more women in critical spaces. We have chartered accountants, very vibrant women. So I'm just highlighting these issues to say women are ready. And in fact, even the debate which talks about a woman president, it's just an ill-conceived debate. They're always there, they're capable. I mean, the mere fact of that women give birth and are able to wake up and face the world. Despite that, they've got to manage and nurture children and nurture the world. So they're always ready. They are leaders by nature. So that's what we've got to look at, that women are always capable and they can compete. They don't want favors. They can compete with anyone, any space where they want to be. So the issue of women, we need to move away from the issue of saying it's women, it's tokenism. There's no tokenism. We can do, we can perform better than any other person, and women are not scared of competition. We can compete successfully. Thank you.
Thanks for the lesson, free lesson, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Member, Michalakis.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. I almost wanted to ask the Honourable Minister then why has her party never been led by a woman, but my question is actually, after the controversial tweets by her department criticizing women who withdraw domestic abuse charges, what is the department doing to ensure that women feel the department is accessible to them to address gender equality issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for that question. I knew, I was waiting for that. Very opportunistic. No, very opportunistic. The question was led by our young women. And let me also start giving a bit of an education. We need to be careful, what do we criticize? This is a world of those who are new and old like myself. those who understand, and the young. That question was raised by our young person who's 22 years old through the social media. And people like yourself are jumping into it and judging the department. That's how you try to undermine development. You judge. It's a young woman, and her question was, is it appropriate for women, or what should we do with women who withdraw cases? That was the question. And it's a genuine question. And it had no malice, and anybody can ask. I get asked this question all the time. No, listen, open your ears. This question is asked all the time by ordinary people. What should we do when women are withdrawing their cases? It's a genuine and legitimate case. And we need to understand the context of that, because it's a question which arises out of concern. It arises out of people who are worried to say there's no recourse. What is it that makes the women to do that? And for us who think that are matured and understand, and not looking at things from a sexist point of view, we need to say, the question refers to say, those who are withdrawing their cases, we must ask the question, what makes them to withdraw their cases? What pushes them to do that? When they go to the police station to report, do they get justice? Do they make sure that they get proper attention? That's what we've got to look at. Don't look at the question. Look at, do they get proper service? Do they get satisfaction at the end of the day, where then they can be able and confident that as they do that, justice will happen? And we know for a fact there are women who went to report, not long
Honorable
ago.
Minister, the honorable member is...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to know if the Honourable Minister will take a question of clarity.
Or you're out of order, honorable member.
Chair, I'm very confused on what the Minister is saying.
Please don't be confused. What is happening now, the Minister is addressing the question that was raised by the Honorable Michalakis. And thereafter we'll then have 3 members, if ever they are there to make a follow-up question. Then maybe I think you need to fall in those numbers, because I've seen a hand from the Honorable Mitile, and that was it. So I'll give you a chance, ma'am. I've seen your hand now. Honorable Minister, are you done? Honorable Michalakis, please take your seat. Please.
House Chairperson, on a point of order.
On a point of order, Mama, take your seat.
The Minister just called me sexist. I would like her to withdraw that comment, please.
Does she want me to answer, or should I focus on him? Because that's exactly why is she behaving
Honorable
on this?
Minister, I want you to continue to answer your question. Don't focus on him.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, I'm not angry, I'm explaining to you. Can I explain to you? The issue I'm raising, not long ago, Chairperson, not long ago, in Alexander, a family under the same condition.
Mama, there's a lady standing on her feet. Ma'am Pambo Shibukwane.
It is unparliamentary for the minister to call the honorable member, Michalakis, sexist. And I find it very strange that on this month of August, when we're talking on non-sexism, and the minister is saying, from a woman's point of view, you're sexist. She did say it loudly. Everybody must have heard it. And at this point, I would ask the minister to withdraw to the honorable member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ma'am Pambo Sibukwana. Mama, in your address, I did not pick that up. I promised the honorable members that I'll go and consult the Hansard, and then I'll come back with a response. If ever the word was misused, then, Mama, for now, another point of order, Honorable Mitileni, what is your point of order?
This time I'm not, actually saying or supporting what is being said by the other honorable members.
What is your
The
point of
orders
order?
referred to you,
What
you
is your
seem
point
to have
of order?
forgotten something. You refer to us male honorable members as papas and female honorable members as mamas. So may you please refrain from that and address us as honorable members.
Honorable
You have
Mitilene.
long been doing it ever since you started. So
Honorable
I'm just reminding
Mitilene.
you once more, Honorable Chair.
Honorable
I know
Mitilene.
it's a kind of respect that, you know, you have to show us as honorable members. Of course, we are mamas and papas. But for argument's sake, just...
Honorable Mitilene, take your seat. Take your seat. I want to address what you're raising. That is noted, Honorable Mitilene. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The issue of abuse and violence against women and withdrawal of cases. Not long ago, a month ago in Alexander, a family, a mother who was abused, was killed at the police station when she was going to lay a case. And these are the issues, these are the realities which we've got to deal with to say what makes all those things, what makes people to be afraid, because women go and report, and sometimes people come and entice them back to say, don't report, withdraw. Some, they bully and force them to withdraw. So I'm just saying, let's not take a small thing and think that this world, it's about the few, and look forward to criticism. There's a bigger world out there, which is very complex, which is created by some of the people who are bully, by some of the people who are masculine and who think the worlds give them the authority to do certain things in the world. That's what we've got to look at. Look at the broader perspective of the challenges which are faced by women instead of trying to attack and picking up on a sentence and making it an issue. There's a context to it, and there's a real situation which we've got to address instead of trying to do petty politics.
Thank you very much. The next member is the Honorable Member Smith.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Has the department considered embarking on a national discussion on practices that could violate the rights to equality of women, and how the department can contribute to finding a solution on these practices? And if I can use an example, in terms of tribal areas, tribal authorities where widows cannot own a house in that areas.
Thank you, Honorable Smith. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. That's a new question. Does not relate to this one.
Thank you very much. She is not ready to answer the question because it's new. So we continue. The Honorable Member Labuskakan, you are the last one.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to refer to the previous question and the fact that I was confused. Can the Honourable Minister tell me what is the difference between when a young woman asking you what should be done about women withdrawing their charges, and when a member of Parliament who is eligible to be here, put here by public, raise the public's concerns, ask that same question in a different way? Why is the minister then saying that the political person is an opportunist and is judging? The same question has been raised. What does the department do to resolve these problems? Don't do the political thing, Minister. Please answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Labuskakan. Honorable Minister.
Chairperson, that's a new question. She must put it in writing.
Thank you very much. Honorable Labuskakan, please take your seat. Can you take your seat? Will you take your seat, Honorable Member? Let me address you first. The Honorable Minister is not ready to take that question because to her is new. What you can do is to put the question in writing. Put the question in writing and then the Minister will then respond to you. Are you rising on a point of order?
Yes, I'm rising on a point of order.
What is your point of order?
I raised a question which is not difficult. The question is, the minister, a young woman in the tweet that we refer to in this question, raised a question. a member of this parliament raised the same question in a different way, and the minister says she's not ready to answer a question, then she mustn't be a minister, because the minister's work is in this house to answer questions that has been asked.
Okay.
And we cannot protect members from the chair. This can't continue like this, and we will start fighting this now, because we are civil up till now. This can't continue like this, Chair, and I will not leave it here. I will write the letter, and we will take this matter further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, the Honorable Member Lawaskachen. Remember, the Honorable Member Michalakis did ask a question, and I wish you can listen to me. And the Minister did address that question. So the Honorable Member now is rising on a follow-up question to what the Minister was saying. And the Minister, with respect, she is saying, she's not throwing that away, but put that in writing and then you'll get a response. Can we then continue, honorable members? We are now on human trafficking in South Africa, Minister. Question 150, asked by the honorable member, NP Mohosi. I've heard that the Honorable Mitileni will then be responsible for this question because the member is not in the house. Honorable Mitileni, you're ready. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, Usphathe kahle, Honorable Member. Firstly, it is not true that government has been silent on the issue of human trafficking. We have many instances in which government has decisively intervened. For example, the recent case of our rescue of 2 children from Malawi and their return to their family in Mpumalanga. Human trafficking cannot be successfully addressed by any one government department or organization. There are various departments that have mandates to contribute to the prevention, investigation, and sanction of human trafficking and the protections of the victims of human trafficking. Human trafficking is a societal issue which requires all social partners to make a contribution.
The Honorable Member Mitileni?
Minister.
Order, Honorable Mitileni, order, before you continue. Honorable Mitileni, please let me address you. You just stood up and said, Nyabonga Mama, but you did not want me to call you Papa. Can you also note that one?
Honorable Minister, I've got a follow-up here on behalf of the colleague. This problem of trafficking has been going on for a very long time now. And I believe now that the minister might be having something tangible with regard to human trafficking. Are you in a position, Madam Minister, to tell this House which places in South Africa are seen to be practicing this satanic activity? And you perhaps know which countries are buying these parts from South Africa. For the fact that this has been going on for a very long time, I believe you are in a position to can be able to answer these small questions, because these are leads to the main problems that we are encountering as South Africans. And do you have any list of maybe suspects who might have been apprehended in South Africa? It could be any province that maybe you can come up with which has already apprehended some of these suspects. Maybe if I ask these questions, we'll be able to maybe resolve this problem which has been carrying on and on and on unattended. And maybe lastly, how many, if there are any, how many have been charged? Who have been seen to be taking activities in these offenses. And will you tell South Africans, the last one, Minister, these questions are
Honorable Mitileni, on a point of order, Papa. Honorable Mitileni.
Can you tell South Africans?
Honorable Mitileni.
Can you tell South Africans that they are now safe?
Honorable Mitileni.
From this barbaric act.
Honorable Mitileni, you are now on your 6th question, and you are supposed. Wait. Let me address you first. Wait for me, Honorable Mitilen. Listen to me. We've been listening to you. You are supposed to ask one supplementary question, and the one that is relevant to the question that was asked by Honorable Mokhosi. So you were mentioning things like the satanic thing, and your questions are 6. So the Honorable Minister, I don't know whether she is ready to respond to one of those, if ever she is having the answer. But those are new questions. Can you please take your seat, Honorable Mitilen? Take your seat, Honorable Mitilen. And please remember that you are supposed to ask only one supplementary question. Take your seat. Mama, Honorable Minister, over to you.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. Honorable Ntileni, the issues you've raised, I'm unable to respond to it. In fact, I'm shocked. I'm just about to collapse about some of the things you're saying. But just going back to the subject matter, it's that we've seen various cases which have been taken to courts. I might not be able to tell you the numbers, but we've had successful prosecution on some people when it comes to human trafficking. But the others, I'm very shocked. I'm shivering where I am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We are now on question 122, which deals with the opportunities for women, asked by the Honorable Elsie Dlamini, who is not in the country, but the Honorable Zugiswa will then be responsible for this question. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Every department has a responsibility in ensuring that all sectors of society, including women, are aware of the services they provide and opportunities available to them. The Department of Women, at this stage, we are involved in various campaigns, including addressing issues of gender-based violence. We have a campaign which is a year-long, which deals with issues of 365 days hashtag. And part of that is to make sure that we pull on board the men of our society, because one of the issues which we've discovered is that you can't have a process of victims without looking at the perpetrators. That's part of our campaigns. Some of the issues and opportunities which have arisen, we've seen that young women, through STEM processes and access to funding by women, are some of the issues which are very important. I've outlined earlier on that we involve with the Department of Agriculture in partnerships in making sure that more women can access farming. When it comes to the AU, for instance, South Africa is part of the AU, where 2015 has been declared as the year of women's empowerment and development towards Agenda 2063. And some of the resolutions taken, which talks about making sure that by 2020 in the AU, Africa as a whole, we reach parity. And I must say that in South Africa, when we talk about this, especially in this house, coming from the ruling party, we are proud that in this particular house, NCOP, we are 54% representation of women, and followed by the others when it comes to the progress made in South Africa, especially in decision-making, where the EFF is 33%, and the official opposition is about 23%, which shows that where we are as South Africa in terms of our constitution, which talks about equality, where we have the Equality Act. Indeed, some of us are there to advance the interest of women, not as tokens, but as real contributors and decision makers in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Zigwizo, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me first thank the Minister. It's true that we know the ruling party is the one that has been leading in terms of 50-50 representation. And also we had an influence even to the continent in terms of influencing gender equality. Now, Chair, what I want to ask from the Minister is...
Okay, Honorable Sugizo, take a seat. Okay, wait, Honorable Mitilen. The Honorable Member Faber and Honorable Mitileni are standing at the same time on a point of order, but I will then take your point of order first. Can you take your seat, Honorable Faber? You'll follow if ever Mitileni is not going to address what you're saying.
I just want to know if visitors are allowed to ask questions here. I'm seeing a visitor in the other end of this house. Are visitors allowed to ask questions?
Okay, take your seat, Honorable Mitileni. Let me respond to that one. Honorable Faber, take your seat. The Honorable Member Mitileni maybe was not in the house when the House Chair was welcoming the Honorable Member in absentia, like it happened with the Honorable Mokhosi. She is not a visitor in this house. She is the Honorable Member of the House. Thank you very much. You are forgiven. Take your seat, Honorable Mitileni. You are forgiven. Take your seat. The Honorable Faber?
Thank you, Chair. On a point of order, Chair, the Honourable Member, I understand, wants to pose a question, but please, I would like to please say to the member to not make political statements before making a question, because this is definitely not on.
Thank you very much. Actually, the Honorable Faber is out of order because she knows we are welcome to make our recommendations after any response that we got from the ministers, if ever we have the recommendations that we want to make. And actually, many members have been doing it. So the Honorable Member is on track. Continue, Mama.
Thank you very much, Chair. Moving from the points that I've raised first, Chair, what I would like to ask the Minister is the issue of making available the information to women, especially in rural areas, in terms of these opportunities that he has referred to, in terms of languages that we use that are really sensitive to those people, especially the people living with disability who cannot hear or else who cannot speak.
Thank you.
So that's the question.
Thank you, Honorable Zekizwa. Honorable Member Smith.
Honorable House Chair, I actually wanted to assist the Honorable Member because we can't hear, because her microphone is there and we can't hear anything that she's saying.
Oh, okay. My apologies, sir. Anyhow, maybe when the Honorable Minister will be giving a response, then he'll be able to attend to what you did not hear. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The issue of reaching out to various sections of South Africa, Honorable Member will be going out on national dialogues. And part of what we intend to do is to go touch all areas of South Africa, including rural areas, for us then to be able to interact not just with women in the cities, but also to reach out to those remote areas where normally when we do work, we're unable to reach out to, including the disabled women, in understanding their issues, including those who are deaf. I mean, one of the issues which as a department we are doing right now is that when we go to any public activity, we make sure that the sign language, because we recognize that is important. I must also share with you, Honorable Member, that not long ago during Mandela Day, what we have done here in Western Cape, realizing that our society's challenges as a whole, there are people with disability. We distributed wheelchairs in ngapha estrand ukwenzela ukuba abantu bakuthi nabo babone ukuba noko lo mbuso uyakwazi ukuba uthathe ixhaxheba bancede kwiingxaki ezikhona empilweni zabo. Enkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member Lond. You'll follow, Honorable Khulana.
Thank you, Chair. The Minister quoted stats and figures now of members in this House. Now, doesn't the Minister think that it's an absolute shame that the ruling party, in the Women's Month, okay, for questions to the Minister of Women in the Presidency cannot even ensure that there's a quorum in the NCOP, that only 13 out of the 31 members find it worthwhile their time to attend this sitting.
Thank you, Honorable Lund. I think the Honorable Lund is out of order. Honorable Minister, don't even attempt to answer that question because we are not taking the decisions. The honorable members are here to attend to this plenary. We are still in order. The honorable member, Groenewald.
Honorable Chairperson, to the Honorable Minister. How many opportunities does the department offer to women? What are the criteria to qualify for such opportunities, and how many women have been beneficiaries of the opportunities the department offers? And then what measures do the department have in place to evaluate whether the opportunities offered are successful in their outcomes? I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Groenewald. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. I must explain the responsibility of the department. This is a department which oversees the mainstreaming of gender and women in South Africa in various sectors. So the opportunities which we are responsible for is to make sure women have opportunities in all sectors of South Africa, not in the department. Not in the department, but if you want to know, in the department, we are a very small department, not huge, but with this big load which we have to deliver in changing and transforming the lives of ordinary women, to transform the lives of ordinary women. And I am one of those women who has managed to benefit out of the struggles of South Africa. That's our responsibility. The transformation of making sure women are at the center of the economy, that's our responsibility. We have just published a report which was launched by the President, August month, Status of Women in the Economy. If you go to that report, it will show you the work which is happening in South Africa in the various sectors. I've just said, in South Africa, the first black woman to own a mine starting from scratch. That's history, not only in South Africa, in the world. So we're making history as South Africa, coming from where we come, and only in 21 years we have transformed and contributed to the change. But I must also underline that the road ahead, it's still long. We need more women. We need to address poverty. We need to make sure that more women are educated. We need to make sure that more women are skilled. Because unfortunately, when Dr. Verwoerd took a decision that an African child, an African person, the responsibility of that person was to know English and just to know to say good morning, sir. That was enough. So we've got also to address that particular legacy, which has led to where we are today, where our own women could not only practice anything else except being a teacher, a nurse, and a social worker. So democracy has brought opportunities, and it has opened South Africa, especially for women, in changing their lives, in participating in the various economies and in the various areas where they can take care of themselves. Not only that, including owning businesses. And that is why we're seeing more women participating. But also what we've seen happening in our country, it's also addressing the laws which had turned a woman into a minor. Today, women are confident, they are human beings, they are recognized as equals, instead of what was done, that they are minors. Today, they are full-fledged people. That's what our responsibility is in this country, in making sure that the struggles of the women of 1956 does not lay fallow without any South Africans benefiting. And the difference about those women of 1956, they contributed and fought repression laws in a way that was non-racial and non-sexist, and we are beneficiaries of the struggles of those women of 1956.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The other question deals with the Commission for Gender Equality Call Center. Over to you. It was asked by the Honorable Member Masango.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Masango, the Gender Commission, it's a Chapter 9 institution. It does not account to us. It accounts directly to Parliament Chairperson. Therefore, I would propose to the Honorable Member that if there are issues in relation to Gender Commission, they must summon the Commission to come and explain all the issues which they are asking us. It's a Chapter 9 institution. We don't have the authority and mandate to summon them to give us information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me take this opportunity. Order, Honorable Members. Honorable Mitilin.
Come up, House Chair. I want this House, I just want to call to the attention of this House to check the questions, the way...
Order, Honorable Members.
The way these questions are structured. I think maybe in the long run, this is going to assist us. I'm challenging you...
Honorable Mitilin, you don't want to speak to the mic.
Sorry.
Because I can see you.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm challenging you, House Chair. On the order that you called, you asked me to sit down when I was asking questions. I want you to check the order of these questions. You check the last question, how it reads. It leads to us asking sub-questions leading to the main question.
What is your point of order, Honorable
The point of order is that I want all of us to check the way these questions are structured. Like you said, Mina, I had so many questions. If you check this last question, it says, how many complaints? And it's sub-question 1.
Order,
followed by
Honorable
how many
Mitilin.
fraud
Order,
reports.
Honorable Mitilin.
I want us to...
No, you're out of order. Let me address you, Honorable Mitilin. When you wanted to ask many questions, while you are supposed to ask only one supplementary question, it's not the same as this one. Please take your seat, Honorable Mitilin. I heard you are out of order. You are out of order, Honorable Mitilin. Please take your seat. Take your seat, Honorable Mitilin. Honorable Mitilin, you are out of order. Take your seat. Well, me and him will see each other when we'll be going back to Limpopo. Honorable members, I would like to take this opportunity and thank our minister for really taking her time in order to avail herself in this house so that he can respond to all those many questions. And we will also be blessed by your teaching, Mama. Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the day, honorable members. And the members are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the chamber.